All right. Hello. How are you? Happy Friday. It is 14 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock. Porter, no need to play the cheesy breaking news sounder. We can handle this all. You know what? Because it is Friday and it's one of the cheesiest things we have on the station. Why don't you fire up our corny Aaron Sorkin newsroom breaking news sounder so we can lead the show with some breaking news today right off the top. An email just spilled in from the University of Utah Athletic Department. Kyle Whittingham, the all-time winningest coach in the history of the University of Utah football program, will step down from leading the Utes and will conclude his highly successful tenure in the Las Vegas Bowl on December the 31st. So we have it official now. It is a release from the University of Utah Athletic Department. It is not some blogger on social media surmising some sort of random source. This comes from the source themselves. Coach Witt is stepping down. The winningest coach in the history of Utah football, who took over in December of 2004. Member of the Utes coaching staff since 1994. Coach Witt finished the 2025 regular season with the most career victories at the FBS level of all active Big 12 coaches, 177, ranking third among all active FBS head coaches and third among head coaches who have remained at the same school. Here's what Coach Witt had to say. I'm reading directly from the release, and we'll get into it throughout the course of the show today with our guests that do include Eric Weddle. So we'll bring in Ewed today. Quote, the time is right to step down from my position as the head coach at the University of Utah. It has been an honor and a privilege to lead the program for the past 21 years, and I'm very grateful for the relationships forged with the players and assistant coaches that have worked so hard and proudly worn the drum and feather during our time here. The opportunity to guide so many talented young men as they pursued their goals both on and off the field has truly been a blessing. Thank you to the university, the Salt Lake community, all of Ute Nation, and most of all, the Drive with Spence. Just kidding. And most of all, my wife and family for your unwavering support that has helped make Utah football what it is today. Okay, so we'll get into this. There's some other quotes that I'll read. Some Mark Harlan quotes, of course, a lot of highlights from Coach Witt's tenure that spanned more than 2 decades as the head coach of the Utes. But there it is, your breaking news. We've been waiting for it. The deadline for Kyle to inform the administration was actually a week ago today. And so, as we've talked about throughout the course of the program, just because he had to tell the administration doesn't mean that we would know. A lot of kind of cryptic social media posts from a lot of people that are kind of connected to the Utah football program over the past 24 hours. And there you go. The news is official that Coach Witt will step down. Hello, how are you? Happy Friday. This program is called The Drive with Spence Checketts. My name is Spence Checketts. I hosted. That's Porter Larson behind the glass today producing the show. And the breaking news that came down literally 6 minutes ago is that Kyle Whittingham is stepping down as the head coach of the Utah football program. And Morgan Scalley, front and center, buddy, it is now your chance. We'll get to some other things, but this is probably going to essentially permeate throughout the tapestry of the program today. Our first guest, coincidentally enough, is Eric Weddle. So that worked out really well. We're going to do a little NBA with Howard Beck. We'll do a little golf with Paul Pugmire. Dave Bartu will join us as well. Dave will have some good perspective on Coach Witt stepping down. And we have an open segment. So with the news today, we'll probably try to reach out to some people to get some perspective on exactly what this means for Utah football and some perspective on the tenure of Coach Witt, who changed the scope of Utah football, both now and forever, moving forward. Really changed the standards, a lot higher than it once was. Porter Larson, young man, producer of this program, host of our Utah football pregame show.
Yo.
You've been doing this for 7-8 years now, and you're close to the program, as close as any media member. I will say this isn't a surprise. It is what I was expecting. Essentially, it was after the win over K-State, his post-game presser when he got emotional, when talking about, the last chance at Rice-Eccles was the sentence that got him. And then after the Kansas win, he basically admitted that he was really close to walking away a year ago. He leaves it much better than you found it, the old cliche, a 10-win season, a turnaround after last year's difficulties. What are your thoughts as Coach Witt officially will exit stage left now?
Yeah, man, and you mentioned that that press conference moment, and that was what kind of did it for me. I wanted to give Kyle, of course, the chance to break the news, as it's his to break, but also, give him the chance to change his mind, maybe, right? Knowing the kind of guy he is, the competitor he is, seeing the recruiting class that Utah had, seeing the funding that Utah has coming in, I thought maybe he'd have some second thoughts. But you go back to that press conference where he mentioned the last time in Rice Eccles, and he almost like broke down when he said that out loud. And then after the game, Spence, I hung around for a while. And usually the process, a little behind the scenes here, the very last thing that I do on a game day is I go to Kyle's office and I grab him and take him to the microphone to interview Bill. And usually the very last thing Kyle does is hangs up that headset and then gets the hell out of Rice Eccles Stadium. That week, he and his family were there longer than I was. They were at Rice Eccles an hour, 2 hours maybe after the game. And to me, it kind of showed that they were hanging on to something that was coming to a close. And now, of course, it's official, but Scally time. And I think folks are excited, rightfully so. But a lot due to Kyle Whittingham. And I'm sure we'll spend a good portion of this bowl preparation giving him his flowers.
Which he very much deserves. Coincidentally, our first guest today is Eric Weddle, so we will behave ourselves and stay on task before EWED joins us on a Friday afternoon. Courtesy of our good friends and your good friends too at Prize Picks. It's time now for your opening tip.
Welcome to The Drive with Spence Checketts on Utah's #1 sports talk. Now into the studios of ESPN 700 to set the scene for the show. The opening tip of The Drive is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use the code ESPN 700 and run your game with Prize Picks.
Holiday season, guys. Best time of year for sports, bowl games, basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, which game to watch, there's one place where it feels good to be right, and that's with our good friends at Prize Picks. New feature alert. It's called early payouts. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may now have the option to cash out on those winnings before the game even finishes. Your fantasy football season might be over, and if it is, you can play fantasy football every weekend at Prize Picks. You pick your favorite players, and when they hit their projections every week, you can win some cash. No draft required. Step number one is grab their free money. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup, because on Prize Picks, it is good to be right. All right, it is official, and we received the email. I will timestamp this for you about 11 minutes ago. Keeler McJunkin, our guy, the assistant AD for strategic communications in the University of Utah Athletic Department, sent out an email to all of us that Kyle Whittingham will step down as Utah's head football coach. All-time winningest head coach in Utah football history. Will coach his last game for the Utes in the Las Vegas Bowl on December the 31st. And I will add this. We're going to bring in Eric Weddle right off the top today, and we'll effort some other guests to kind of give us some perspective here. I know there were a lot of people that were hoping to kind of pay honor to Kyle during the last home game, which was K-State this year. And, we talked about the possibility on the show of, Taylor Randall or Mark Harlan going into Kyle's office and being like, hey, it's your last home game. If you're stepping down, let us know so we can do something for you. And how silly that pursuit would have been, because a lot of important football was still left on the table. And at that time, Utah was actually still in the CFP conversation. So I know there's a portion of this community that would have liked to honor Kyle in their own way at Rice Eccles Stadium that day. Well, the good thing about this announcement is you still have a chance to do it. Vegas is a very easy trip. You can drive there and get there in 4 or 5 hours or whatever. It's a very easy flight. There are worse places to spend New Year's Eve. There's a small chance we're going to be there as a station, and maybe this announcement will make it even more important that we are there. Let's try to pack that stadium. Let's get as many Ute fans as we can there. A good, solid bowl game, a good, solid matchup against Nebraska, a fine team out of the Big Ten. As far as non-CFP games go, this is probably one of the top 4 or 5 bowl matchups out there. And now we have a chance to gather and say thank you to Kyle. And that, to me, without prepping a show, because the news broke right as we cracked the microphone today, is just the one thing that I think I personally would like to say to him on behalf of any Utah alum that went to the school when I did in the 90s, and certainly prior to that too, when we were a basketball school with Rick Majerus and making Final Four runs and nearly winning national championships. And obviously, Coach Mack was building a foundation. As I always say, Mack built the foundation, Urban built the mansion, and Kyle built the estate, right? But 21 years as Utah's head coach, he has changed this school for the better and forever. He has changed the football community for the better and forever. So I'll just say thank you to Kyle for his personal kindness to me over the years on the shows that I've done. He's always been willing to come on and answer questions, and every time I've seen him off the microphone, he couldn't have been nicer. He is a good man. This is not just a great football coach. Kyle Whittingham's a good man. And there are dozens and dozens of young men throughout the course of his tenure of 21 years that have gone on to do great things, not just as football players, but as people, as fathers, as husbands, and as stewards and members in the community. This is not just about a football coach who has developed football players to win games at Utah. This is about a man who has led young men to hopefully go on to do great things in life. And there will be dozens and dozens and dozens of former players that will come to the forefront, whether it's social media. Hopefully we'll get a bunch on our show throughout the course of their ability to express themselves in whatever platform, that I would imagine the outpouring of love for Kyle and his wife and his family and everybody who was a part of this project of taking Utah football from the WAC to the Mountain West to the Pac-12, now to the Big 12, but ultimately as to taking it to one of the preeminent football programs in the Western United States. And that's what Utah football is. You know, there were a couple of down years because that's how this thing works. Sometimes injuries set in. Sometimes tragedy strikes. One of the things that I always remember about Kyle is how he kind of led the community through the Ty Jordan, Aaron Lowe tragedies, and how he kind of showed a vulnerable human side to himself during that time. You could tell how much that affected him. So, yeah, you're not going to have a great year every single year. You're not going to win 10 games every single year. You're not going to win conference championships every single year. He'll always have the undefeated 2008 team, the Sugar Bowl win over Alabama. He'll have Rose Bowl appearances. He'll have back-to-back Pac-12 championships. But more than anything else, I mean, you know, certainly for a sports talk radio show that makes its home a mile and a half away from Rice-Eccles Stadium, we're forever grateful for the way Kyle built Utah football, but for the way Kyle, led young men and went into the living rooms of parents and convinced them that he was the guy to help their son become a man. And trust me with your son over the next 3 or 4 years. Send him to play for me. We'll teach him good habits. He'll be a part of a winning program. And sometimes they'll go on to be millionaires in the NFL. But if they're not that, hopefully they go on to just be good people, good fathers and good husbands. That, to me, will be the legacy that Kyle leaves behind. So on behalf of anybody that I would represent, even if it's just myself, I say, Kyle, thank you for your 21 years as Utah's head coach. He has earned the right to spend the back 9 of his life however he wants to, whether it's playing golf, riding his motorcycle, spending time with his wife, kids, and grandchildren. I know that's very important to him. Real quick, I'll share a quick story. One of the chances I had to interview him last year, we had to pre-tape because ultimately Utah football typically practices in the afternoon. And before we went live, he said to me over the phone, he said, "How is your father?" I said, "He's great." He said, "What is he doing right now?" And I said, "Well, he's doing a couple of different projects here or there, but he's really spending a lot of time with his grandkids, my nieces and nephews, my son." I said, "We have 21 of them, and he and my mom travel all over the country where we all live, and they just hang out with their grandkids." And Kyle said to me before he went on air, "I cannot wait to do that soon." And here we are 2 years later, and that's what he's about to do. And man, has he earned it. Shout out to Coach Witt. Thank you from all of us to you, and best of luck in whatever's next. I'm sure he'll be around the athletic department, and he has left an undeniable footprint in his 21 years as Utah's head coach. We'll catch a break and bring in one of Coach Witt's massive success stories, and that's Eric Weddle on the other side, right here on ESPN 700. All right, I said to Porter during the break, you know Witt's favorite music better than I do, favorite bands better than I do. So the rest of the show today, every bump is going to be one of Kyle's favorite bands or songs. And right out of the gates, what do we got here?
A little Quiet Riot.
Okay.
Really, if you have like some 80s hair metal,
Okay.
you can go a little classic rock too, but that's Kyle's lane.
Okay.
Certainly.
All right.
I've heard this song in his office before.
Well, we are honoring Coach Witt. We are saying thank you to Coach Witt. Literally, as I cracked this microphone this afternoon, the email came out from Utah Athletics that after the bowl game, Kyle Whittingham will step down as the head coach of the University of Utah. One of his best success stories, certainly, and one of our favorite guests joins us right off the top. Eric Weddle, happy Friday, sir. I just want your initial reaction now that we know that it is official that after the bowl game, Coach Witt is going to retire.
Man, my phone's getting blown up. I was in a meeting with a couple players, and then I was meeting with a couple coaches that were coming through, college coaches, and so I didn't have my phone on me. And last I heard or assumed was Coach Wood was coming back, and for this to come out, full of gratitude, honored to have played under him, to call him family, to call him a father figure and someone I look up to and admire. And honestly, I owe so much of my success from my family to my playing career is owed to Coach Witt. And I've said this numerous times, so I'm forever indebted to him for believing in me and going out on a limb when nobody else really wanted to offer me a scholarship. And that includes Coach Meyer, for him to go to bat for me and want me. I'm just can't say enough great things about him, and for him to announce this and as a school is pretty crazy, but also I think it's the right time. And he's done so much for our university, and hopefully he could sit back and be proud of what he has accomplished at the University of Utah.
21 years at the helm as the head coach, over 30 years as a coach up on the Hill. Of course, the all-time winningest football coach in Utah history. Contributed to 262 wins in his tenure, head coaching record of 177 and 88. And Ewed, from my perspective, is somebody who was just a student there in the 90s when we were a basketball school, and then watching this dramatic shift after Coach Mack built the foundation, Urban built the mansion, and then Coach Witt built the estate. From my perspective, we started the show, and I just gave like a very heartfelt thank you, and a thank you to Witt, thank you to his family, and gratitude from my perspective. But you played for him, you know him. Tell us about Kyle Whittingham, the man, how he led young men. We know about him as a coach because we've all watched the team, but behind the scenes, as a father figure, as you call him, as a man, what makes Kyle Whittingham tick?
Gosh, I think what stands out to me mostly is his consistency and his relationships, how authentic and real I think he is. And, he's just what you see is what you get with him. Right, and good, bad, or indifferent, you always kind of know where you stand. You're not gonna not know what's going on if you meet with him. He's very open. He's candid. He's got personality. He's got charisma. He's funny, and it's just he's been there for so long and made such an impact on so many people that it's hard to kind of put into words in perspective on the change he's made in so many people's lives. So it's really crazy. And as a coach now, to kind of think of coaching for that long and the impact he's had is kind of overwhelming for me to kind of grasp. And he did it, and he did it at such a high level and transitioned us into a powerhouse that is a known commodity across the country.
What do you think he was weighing? Because you talk to these coaches, you talk to your former teammates, you're connected to the program, and there were a lot of people that thought, it was going to happen a year ago. And then we all know what happened with the injuries, and even Kyle himself, after the Kansas game, admitted that he was close to stepping down last year, but didn't want to go out like that. Knowing him the way that you do, what do you think he was weighing as it pertains to his decision-making process this time around that ultimately led him to believe that this was the right time?
Gosh, I don't really know. He's very, anytime we have our interaction, he's always upbeat. He's optimistic, but he's also, very honest with what's going on in the landscape and how to navigate it. And I just know for me, in my experience with, when I retired, you just know. And only he will be able to best describe how he knew and if this is the right time or not, and no looking back. Like, I just knew when my time was up, I knew it, right? And I think for him, you just kind of get a sense. You get this feeling like this is the time. Is it worth the time and the sacrifice? And are you ready for a new challenge? Are you ready for the next step? Are you ready? There's so many things that go into it. And I just think, like, for him to come to this moment and realization that it's time, then he knows. And however that came about, he would best understand that and be able to articulate that to everyone else. But I don't know. I just assume that he thinks the program's heading in the right direction with new leadership, and he's done what he can and the most that he can with, and he's ready to sit back and enjoy the fruits of his labor.
Which he's certainly earned. And I told a little anecdote to start the show that last year before an interview I did with him, it was a pre-tape because they had to practice in the afternoon, which is when my show is. And so before he went live, he said, "Hey, how's your dad doing?" And I said, "He's doing great." And he said, "Well, what is he up to?" I said, "Well, at this point, he has a couple projects going on, but he's spending a lot of time with the grandkids, my nieces and nephews." And I said, "There's 21 of them, and he and my mom fly all around the country, and that's pretty much what they do." And he said to me, Ewed, he said, "I can't wait to do that soon." I think a lot of players and coaches give you lip service about, I want to spend more time with my family, and then they're home for a week, and then they go crazy. What insight can you give us on Kyle Whittingham, the dad, the husband, and the grandfather?
Well, you're like 100% right. Like, he is so smart and so intuitive of how you're doing and your family, and still, like, I saw him a few weeks ago when we came up for the Cincinnati game. We're just hanging out in the defense staff room, and he asked how my mom and dad are doing and named them by their names, and my sister and Kathleen. They're like, not many people just have a good feel and understanding about the person, and really remember, like, I'm terrible with names, and I barely remember my kids' birthdays, let alone people I've come across over the last 25 years. And it just shows just the unique ability to make people smile and just feel worth. Like, I think that was a strong trait of his, is making people feel their worth, just about themselves, right, and importance. And so, he always talked about his family, his wife, his mom, who's still at the games, right, coming around, and just the impact his dad had on him and his life and his coaching, and obviously his kids and having them around in the building and all his family. Like, gosh, he's just had such an impact, and, like, look at what he's done just from his brothers and family being a part of the program. Like, we all just marvel and wish that, like, that's like the standard, right? That's what you wish to be able to do for your family and the people that you can impact.
So you were a 14-year NFL guy. You won a Super Bowl. You were a team captain here. You had a long NFL career. Do you throughout the course of your NFL days, when you played for a couple of different teams and you traveled around, and we all watched Sunday Night Football when it's like, okay, they're introducing the team, and you're Eric Weddle, safety, University of Utah. Do you think people around the country, whether it's college or pro football, have an accurate idea of just what kind of coach and person that Whit is?
Yes, I think they do, because no matter what you're going to get when you play a University of Utah football team, and that is a direct reflection of the head coach. And a lot of teams and organizations out there are kind of searching, right, for that. Who are you? What are you about? What is your standard? What are you going to show out there on the football field? And with us and Coach Witt over the last 21 years, you knew what that was, and that was a tough, mentally tough, disciplined, physical unit that's going to hit you in the mouth, going to play team football, team offense, defense, special teams, and you're never going to have an easy game when you played us. And so I think that is who Utah football was. That's who Utah football is and will always be. And it's because of Coach Witt and the standard and the expectation of what we are and what we have always been. And, you know, it's not meant for everybody, right? You know, you come to our team and culture, and I think you have to understand that there's a specific way to play this game and a specific way to represent ourselves on and off the field. And it's not for everybody, but if you do come here and stick it out and be a part of this program, that you'll be a part of this family for the rest of the time.
Feels like one of the words that most everybody would use, whether it's somebody like you who played for him, somebody like me who's covered him, or just somebody from the outside looking in, is intensity, right? It feels like that would kind of be one of the, and there are several superlatives, there are several adjectives that we could use. But when it comes to just the intensity of the way he coached you guys during the week and was able to get you guys ready to play on game day, what was that experience like?
Yeah, I mean, I think as the years have gone on, he's pulled back the moments where he, you know, you could see it in his eyes. You see glimpses of halftime speeches in the locker room where it has to come out, and the intensity. And, you know, I had him as a coach, right, and the intensity was there back in his early days. And there are just moments when you become a head coach, you have to pick your moments, and it's much more managing personalities and making the team go in the right direction and the vision and culture. But there are times where you have to put your foot down, and everyone needs to understand and know, like, the time is now. And I just remember those vividly, like halftime or pregame, and in the moment, like, he gets in your face, and those eyes, they can pierce through you. Because it means so much in the intent and the intensity, like you said. So it's always been in there. I think as the years go on, it's very few that people get to see, but everyone knows when you see it, you sit right up, shoulders back, and ready to rock when you see it.
So you referenced something earlier, Ewed, where you said something along the lines of, it kind of does feel like the right time. How much of that opinion of yours is steeped in the gentleman who's about to slide over a seat? Because now, Morgan Scalley, the show is yours, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's no better guy to take over the program and to continue the success and the culture and the standard, but also maybe improve it, maybe put your own flair on it, put your personality. You know, I've said this probably on your show and over the years. You're not going to hire a guy from the outside to run Utah football. It's just never going to happen. It's got to be someone from within who has experience and understands our culture, because the alumni would go crazy, right? It's just a special place, a unique place that we are very dear to and love. And I'm excited for him. I'm happy for him. He's been I don't like to say groomed, but he's been prepared for this moment since he became a coach on staff, you know, almost 20 years ago. So it's meant for him. He's ready for the challenge, and he's I'm sure he's ready to take it to the new heights that we all expect.
Apologize for catching you off guard here, but I personally am caught off guard right now. So Stuart Mandel from The Athletic, who is a very well plugged in football writer and knows Witt, knows the program very well. He is reporting, he says, quote, Whittingham is not retiring. He could seek other coaching opportunities, a source tells The Athletic. Can you even imagine that? Can you even picture that in your mind, Kyle Whittingham coaching another football team?
No, I mean, but maybe. I mean, I love Coach Witt, and anytime we're together, it's as if we had never left. But it's not like we talk like weekly or monthly. So I don't really know what his ultimate desires are. If he still is challenged, did he get forced? I don't really know at this point. All I know is what was announced, just like everybody else. And shoot, I mean, it's just like playing. If you still have a desire to play and you're still wanted, then go do it. And the same thing with coaching. Like, however he came to this decision, if he still has a desire to coach and someone wants to allow him to coach and lead a program, then shoot, go do it. I'm not going to sit here and tell him not to. And if he did, then I would go support his program just as much as I would as if he was at Utah.
Yeah. Well, I hate to be irresponsible, but there's a school in Ann Arbor that needs a head coach right now. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's for Michigan to figure out.
Yeah.
I have no ties. I mean, I know the DC there. Wink was my old coach. So, but yeah, there's a lot of names going around and this, that, and the other. But I just know he meant a lot to me, still does, and he's family, and just super grateful to have been a player under him and to call him family.
Before I set you loose, and I appreciate your time right off the top here, I want to go back to Morgan a little bit, and you referenced, the right guy at the right time. Let's get into, obviously, a good friend of yours and what you anticipate as far as him continuing on what Kyle has built. And obviously, Morgan cut his teeth under Kyle for basically 2 decades here. And then how much of this new generation of Utah football will he put his own stamp on? Like, can you kind of explain that dynamic a little bit for us before I set you loose?
Yeah, like, are you asking like how do I think the program is going to be different or
similar or both, right? Just like a combination.
I think the landscape of college football is changing every 6 months, right? And so I do think it's going to be within the program. I think it's obviously going to be different because this is Morgan's program now. So there are going to be things that he is going to hold on to that Coach Witt has done, and there's going to be things that are going to change, and could be for the better, could be for not. Nobody's going to know until we see what it looks like 5 years from now. Do we have a national championship? Do we have multiple Big 12 championships or wherever we're playing at? Like, nobody's going to know that, but I do know that there are going to be ideas and visions and things that he's going to want to implement because it's his program now. So obviously he's going to lean on people that he trusts moving forward, and we all understand that as a head coach, there are things that you're going to have to do and decide on, and we're all going to have to follow and follow suit. So that's what good coaches and rely on their support staff. And when you make a decision, you don't look back. You don't live with regrets. Like with me, I'm always moving forward. I live, learn, and move forward. So I expect that with Coach Scally and make our program better than what it is right now. I mean, that's all you can hope for. You don't want to be status quo, right? So you can only hope that he makes the program better than what it was.
Ewed, you're the man. Appreciate the time. Certainly a notable historic day. We'll keep talking about it. You be well and be safe, okay?
You got it, buddy.
Eric Weddle, one of the best to ever do it here at the University of Utah, Super Bowl champ, 6-time Pro Bowler, probably will be headed to Canton at some point as an NFL Hall of Famer. I'll say this. Our guy Matt Brown from Extra Points about a half hour ago tweeted out, should I be reading anything into the fact that I don't see the word retire anywhere in Witt's statement? And then Stuart Mandel, about 10 minutes ago, sends out, according to his sources at The Athletic, Coach Witt is open to other coaching opportunities. What am I supposed to do with that? Am I supposed to be the irresponsible media member that says, hey, Michigan needs a coach?
You want me to be irresponsible?
I would love for you to be irresponsible.
I very much think that Kyle is calculated. Kyle knows exactly what words were in that statement, and he read them over multiple times.
Dude, this just got a little juicy.
I'll be honest with you. I think Spence The fact that Morgan Scalley's the head coach in waiting, I think is like a good thing as far as the turnover goes. But just put yourself in Kyle Whittingham's shoes. There's been kind of a pressure on him because of that. Hey, when are you done? Is it now? Is it tomorrow? Is it next year? Is it this season? That's hard on you. That's hard on your recruiting cycles. That's hard on everybody. So I can see how there's some pressure in that regard, and how you maybe don't want to operate in that space forever. And if you're not completely done, you're still having fun doing this, as Kyle told us in his interview with us, a couple months ago, still having a lot of fun. If there's an opportunity out there, I could see Kyle coach another football game. I don't know where. I could see it. I'll say I could see it.
Well, let me take my listeners behind the curtain a little bit, a little peek behind the curtain for listeners, because I'm here for the listeners. I'm a man of the people. Mm-hmm. You know that. If you listen to the show, you're part of our family. And when I step down, I want to be known, and I want a statue outside of Broadway Media. If you're a listener, I don't really want that.
We'll see.
I will tell you, over the past 30 minutes, I've sent 4 different text messages to people that would respond pretty quickly. If this was like, okay, I'll phrase it like this. If today was we're here to just honor Kyle Whittingham as he retires as Utah's football coach, every one of these people that I would have texted would have responded back and basically would have said, when can I join?
Right.
None of them have responded, which I find interesting. These are not like I'm going out on a limb to try to get somebody that's impossible. Like, I don't have Alex Smith's cell phone, or else I would text him. All 4 texts I've sent are friends of the show that also have deep, deep ties with Utah football that would get back to me and say, even they would say something like, I can't today, but I do want to hop on and talk about what he means to me.
Right.
If this was simply a day to honor a man that was retiring, I would surmise that most of these, if not all of these texts, would be returned right away.
Well, and if you heard Eric Weddle, who knows Coach very, very well and talks to Coach often, Eric said he was surprised by it when you told him on air.
Yes, he did. Good point.
He thought the Witt was coming back, and he thought that as far as up to like 20 minutes ago. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I think that there's a part of Kyle that, as we know, he's a competitor. I won't speak for him, but doesn't want to let that go. And that's just part of being a football coach. Scott on the show before us talked about Don Shula, who just coached until he couldn't, right? We know about Rick Majerus here. When you have to send in that press release, it's got to be a pretty conflicting thing, regardless of where it goes from here.
Send Kamrani a text and see if he can kick the tires with Mandel. Let's see if we could, because Mandel is the one that's reporting. His sources are telling him that this is not a retirement and that Kyle is interested in coaching elsewhere. There's a lot. At this point, I'm just in real time digesting this and connecting dots, so it might be a little bit irresponsible to basically just go. And I need to learn this lesson in life. Just don't say everything that's in your head all the time. Usually gets you in trouble. But you hear some things behind the scenes about whether or not Morgan was kind of getting antsy and whether or not people were ready for a change. I have no idea. That's me connecting dots. And we've got some good guests. LC's going to join us. He's overseas doing some PFL stuff. And we're efforting a lot of other people and, a lot of channels that would be very much open or not today, which may say something. So just to recap, the press release was sent about 2 minutes 2 minutes before we were about to go on air. And the press release, the language is he is stepping down and not retiring. And according to Stuart Mandel, open to other coaching opportunities. So I don't know what to say. We'll see if we can effort more information throughout the course of the day. So busy Friday show. Man, we thought we were going to have a quiet news week. Not at all. We'll keep you up to date on any info that comes our way. We are your home of the Utes, so keep it here on ESPN 700. All right, so we're getting weird on a Friday. Getting really weird on a Friday. Efforting more information. 2 minutes before we cracked the mic to go on air today, it was announced by the Utah Athletic Department themselves that Coach Witt is going to step down, is the language in the release. He will coach the Vegas Bowl, but it did not say retire. And then Stuart Mandel from The Athletic is reporting that Coach Witt is still very much interested in coaching. There's a vacant head coaching job in Ann Arbor. Andy Reid, his buddy, coaches the Chiefs. Maybe he ends up in the NFL. I don't know. This is getting weird. But there's no better writer to join us to get weird on a Friday, to take a little break and talk some NBA, than our guy Howard Beck. Howard, happy Friday, sir. How are you?
Doing well, Spence. How are you?
Good. Have you ever seen a coach go out like what coach can you think of that went out on his terms at the right time? It seems like most of the time retirements are clunky and people hold on way too long.
Yeah, I think that's probably true in like 99% of cases. I did a piece last spring on theringer.com about the idea that, and this is I kept it specific to NBA coaches, but I think this applies across the board, that coaching is an addiction of sorts, in that these guys, they can't pull away. And it doesn't matter how many millions you've made, how much fame and fortune, how many wins, how many championships, whatever. Nobody goes out on top because they all hold on too long and they admit this. I talked to George Karl and Larry Brown and Steve Clifford and Steve Kerr. Like they all basically acknowledge, even if they didn't, some of them use the word addiction or that they're addicted to it, and some of them just said, I just love it and don't want to stop doing it. It's the best thing in the world. So I think this is a common thread, and I've talked to broadcasters in the NBA who have been doing this for decades, who feel the same. I just had a conversation about this with somebody last week where it was like, yeah, I love this. I never want to stop doing this. So, you know what? I guess on the plus side, if you love it that much and you're doing it for the right reasons, that's great. But we never like seeing somebody overstay their welcome.
Yeah, and it also happens, I think fair enough to say it happens with most players as well. I've always found this very interesting as to, and yeah, to your point, maybe there's just you're addicted to it. What else am I going to do type thing. You know, seeing Patrick Ewing in a Sonics uniform was weird, a Orlando Magic uniform, or Olajuwon with the Raptors. I mean, I think it's also a player dynamic where a lot of them just don't know what to do after their playing life.
Yes. Yeah, and, I sort of get it, but also it's a little sad, right? Like, we'd all like to think that there's more to us, that we have more interests and things that drive us and passions than just the thing that defined our career. But I mean, listen, it applies in my universe too. Like, there are writers I've known who kept doing this into their 70s and 80s and maybe even beyond, where I look at it from a younger standpoint and think, like, I hope I can walk away before that age, but also, like, hard to judge somebody else's life decisions, right? If that's what still drives them, cool. But, like, yeah, I mean, I've been doing this long enough that I am closer to the end than the beginning. And I'd like to think that when I hit retirement age, whatever we want to define that as, that I'll be ready to kind of say, okay, I had my time and I'll occupy myself other ways. But I do get it. We all tend to over-identify ourselves with our careers and let that define us. And, depending on whether or not you have a family or a lot of good friends or other things, sometimes that just takes over.
For sure. And while we're in this space, I mean, once upon a time in this market, the Utah Jazz traded up with the Portland Trail Blazers for the number 3 pick, and I think it was the 2005 draft. And they had the option of taking Darren Williams or Chris Paul. And I was like giddy at the potential of seeing Chris Paul here. They go D. Will because, as the story goes, Jerry Sloan preferred Darren because of his size. And, of course, for a few years, there was a legitimate debate who was better. And then over the course of the career, I mean, Chris just had a longer, overall better career. But for a few years, like, Darren was a elite guard. Did Chris Paul decide to hold on a little bit too long? And ultimately, it feels like he is. It's kind of like Durant. Like, he's too good to have played for like 6-7 different teams. Is this a scenario where over the course of his career, he just ended up grading on people and just had to find a fresh change of scenery?
Probably. It's interesting to think about, right? Like Jerry Sloan insists on Darren Williams, and Darren Williams is the one who, as the stories go, kind of caused, Jerry Sloan to finally hang it up.
Yep.
But if you think about it, like, well, if they'd gone with Chris Paul, considering Chris Paul's demeanor and personality, might have ended up in the same place for all we know. Or who knows? Maybe they would have had better success, or maybe Jerry and Chris would have respected each other in a healthier fashion. Hard to say. Interesting draft, though, right? That one started out with Andrew Bogut to the Bucks, and then Marvin Williams to the Hawks, and none of those guys should have been taken ahead of Chris Paul if we're doing the proverbial redraft, right? And how different is NBA history if that happens? Listen, Chris Paul, everybody across the NBA universally admires the hell and just respects the hell out of Chris Paul. Amazing player, incredible professional, but he's incredibly demanding, and he does great on people, even the people who will swear by him. And we saw it, Blake Griffin now doing an incredible job, by the way, on Amazon Prime. Blake Griffin and that whole crew has been a fantastic studio show addition. But Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, J.J. Redick, Jamal Crawford, anybody who would ever tell you about playing with Chris Paul in L.A. will speak of him in the highest terms. But when they're being honest, they'll kind of laugh and say, like, yeah, he could be tough. He could be tough. And like when Chris is at his peak, you put up with that. But it's like with everybody in every walk of life. Like when you're great at what you do, there's a certain amount of things that'll get overlooked or forgiven. And when you reach this stage of your career where you're now like the 9th or 10th man and you're still a pain in everybody's rear and you're demanding everything of everybody else, but you can't do what you used to be able to do, your credibility or the latitude you get kind of diminishes. And I think that's where the Clippers got to. But it is sad, right? Like, Chris Paul, not always the most sympathetic figure, but he is a Hall of Famer. He is an all-time great. And it was kind of cool seeing him go back to the Clippers to kind of finish his career there. And that they end up, they haven't cut him because they're trying to trade him because of all kinds of other cap issues. But to see it end this way where he's just sent home, kind of blows for everybody. Like, I just don't like seeing it.
I agree with you. Do you think there's a final stop for him before he hangs it up? I mean, for me, I would just kind of, I don't know. I was such a fan of his both in college and then throughout the course of his career. Really, for a while, he was like my favorite player to watch. I'm not interested in seeing him limp around anymore. Maybe a personal preference would be just to kind of call it quits. But what do you think's next?
He clearly wants to have one more season because he signed up for one more season. And whether that was going to be with the Clippers or elsewhere, it seemed to me that he was not ready to just walk away. He wanted to have some sort of kind of definitive ending on his terms where I'm going to play one more season and then I will say it's done. And he, started moving that direction when he made the announcement a couple weeks ago when they visited Charlotte in his home state of North Carolina. Hey, this is going to be it. This is my last trip to Charlotte. And, the farewell tour was kind of underway. And then it got, halted by this, this whole Clippers, issue. So they're going to find somewhere to trade him. If I had to guess, this is not intel. This is just me walking through it logically. They can't cut him without serious roster and cap issues. So they're going to try to trade him. It's a low number. You're going to have to offload him probably to somebody who's way under the cap, like, say, the Brooklyn Nets in my backyard. But then you're going to have to give them some sort of incentive, some inducement. So it's going to cost you like a second-round pick or something for the price of offloading the contract. So they'll do something like that, and then that team will probably waive Chris Paul, and then he'll be free to sign with whoever he wants to. The question then becomes, is there a fit out there? Is there a team that wants Chris Paul as a backup point guard and veteran presence with all the wisdom and all the other stuff that comes with it, including all the nagging and carping? Is there a team that fits that? And is Chris Paul willing to go there? I don't know where this ends up, but if I had to guess, it will follow that series of events. He will be traded somewhere. That team will waive him, most likely, and then he'll sign with maybe a contender somewhere, and that's how he'll finish out his career.
So I continue to just try to find something about the Jazz to ask you, for like the fourth straight year. It's just they're not interesting. But here's something that surfaced as of late. So this is year 4 of like, hey, we're not sure what we're doing with new ownership and a new front office. Will Hardy's contract runs through 2031. He has a massively long runway. They have identified him and they've said, okay, this is our guy. And certainly there are only a handful of NBA head coaching jobs. If you have an opportunity to get one and you get security, you want to keep it. And I understand all that. But as you referenced earlier, when we were talking about coaches retiring, with the news today that Kyle Whittingham is stepping down as Utah's head football coach, after a certain point, you have more money than you will ever need. After a certain point, maybe you've accomplished certain things that, you probably will never get back to, and whatever keeps you hanging on, keeps you hanging on. And Will's only 37. And certainly we talk a lot about, okay, we think he's a great coach. He's going to be here until at least 2031, if not beyond. But there's a video that surfaced recently of Will just lighting it, and I loved it. I got to say, I loved it. Just lighting into his players because they don't play hard, they don't guard, and for the fourth year, they're going to be one of the three worst defensive teams in pro basketball. And there are other people that have pointed out during some of Will's post-game pressers, he just sounds more despondent than he did over the first couple of years of his tenure. And, look, you're well-respected across the league. Most people think he can coach, but you're also what your record says, and he's won 34% of his games. Like, at what point does okay, thanks for the security, thanks for the contract, but can I get some freaking players here? At what point does it have to really get to a coach?
That's a great question. The first thing I thought of was that, Danny Ainge hired Brad Stevens way back when, after they traded, I think it was right at the same time they had traded Pearson Garnett, and it was the rebuild, and he gave him a contract that was unheard of for a rookie NBA head coach, and as young as Brad was at the time. And so it reminds me of that a little bit, with just kind of like, we have identified our guy. We believe in this guy, and we know we're in a tough spot, so we're going to give him a long runway, in part because as a show of faith, there are going to be rough years. It's going to be hell on the coach, and we want to support him, and we want to make sure that everybody understands, from the coach to the public, that this is our guy through thick and thin, and there's going to be better days ahead, but it's on us to get there as a front office to put together the kind of roster that is befitting of this really great, bright, young head coach. What that contract cannot account for, and what none of us can, is just the mental and physical and psychological toll of all that losing in the meantime. And yeah, sure, the money's great, the lifestyle is great, but yeah, if you're, as you noted, you're seeing it and hearing it in Will's press conferences. And I saw that clip too, and like you, I kind of chuckled, and I love it. I think it's great, but that's easy for us to say. It's entertainment for us. For Will Hardy, it's just utter frustration. I think it's a really good question, but only one that Will Hardy and his family, his support group can answer, is how long can he take this this whole process, this rebuilding process. Look, there are some bright spots along the way, right? We've seen some moments from the team, from Chianti, and Markkanen is still there. Maybe, who knows, no matter what you and I say about trading him, maybe he stays there. And maybe they're just a piece or two away from becoming at least respectable and more consistent. And, maybe that will answer the question about Will Hardy's psyche.
Back to, I'm going to intertwine the Clippers into the storyline, because the Jazz, I don't think that they have, you just cannot allow your draft pick to go to OKC. As we've talked about, it's top 8 protected. And for a small market team rebuilding, that is an asset you have to maintain. For a minute, it looked like maybe they were going to win their way into like 9 or 10. Austin Ainge before the season said they would not lose intentionally in the name of draft capital, where, well, you have to. There's just no other way around it unless you want to be stuck in purgatory. But OKC also owns the Clippers' first-round pick, and they're 6-19. Like, what do the Clippers do? Is there a way out of this?
I have half a mind to suggest that the entire NBA should conspire to give the Clippers better players in lopsided trades for the good of the league, right? Like, there's all these NBA conspiracy theories over the years, and I don't believe in basically any of them. But I believe there actually needs to be one in this case. Like, the league as a whole, nobody wants to see the Oklahoma City Thunder get another lottery pick and possibly a top 3 pick in a packed draft with multiple potential franchise stars. But short of a conspiracy to help the Clippers and deny the Thunder another lottery pick, I don't know. I don't know how they get out of this. Like, they can't tank, obviously, and they wouldn't want to, but I do think it's not out of the question to start trading guys just to change up the chemistry and the vibe. And, it's not working with Harden and Kawhi Leonard anymore. And there are probably teams out there who, despite Kawhi's injury track record and whatever else, and Harden being up there in years, like, there are teams that could use those guys who are playing for something this season, and maybe trading one of them. You probably don't want to have to trade Zubac, but maybe it's him. I don't know where they go, but I think you can't just stand still. You can't, it's the whole definition of insanity, and, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Like, they've got to try something else to get out of this. And look, we can all sit here and say, oh, sunk cost fallacy. There's no way to get the pick back. There's no fixing this. But I do think there is a extra psychic toll for that, the whole front office and everybody else to potentially give up a high lottery pick to the Thunder. And again, reverberations for the whole league, because the Thunder already feel unbeatable. Nobody needs to be sending them another blue chip prospect.
That's actually what I was going to ask you before I say you loose. I mean, look, they've won 16 straight. Their net is 17.4, and they played the majority of the season without their second best player. Is there anybody in the league that even exists in their cul-de-sac?
I think they own the whole cul-de-sac at this point. They've knocked down other homes, and they've just kind of expanded their property.
Yeah.
I said this on Zach Lowe's pod yesterday. I think, like, there's a lot of season left. There are teams that will make trades that will change the complexion of the league in one way or another. It may not be Giannis or Anthony Davis, but, there are going to be deals, and teams are not going to just sit idly by and concede the season to the Thunder. And from Oklahoma's side of it, some combination, like, the reason we don't get repeat champions very often, and not just this last 7-8 years where we haven't had a repeat champion. I mean, even back, the Warriors repeated, but before them it had been years since we had the Lakers three-peat. The Spurs won 5 titles and never repeated. It's hard to repeat because of some combination of fatigue, injury, and maybe boredom. And right now, there does not seem to be any sign of fatigue, injury, or boredom with the Thunder. I mean, they did start the season without Jalen Williams. They've been without Isaiah Hartenstein, but nothing catastrophic, and certainly nothing that's happened to Shea, who is the most important piece there. But there's a lot of season left, and I'm not wishing anything on anybody, but odds are, history suggests that some combination of fatigue and injury and maybe boredom will catch up to them. But short of that, it's hard to see anybody beating them. But, you got to beat them 4 out of 7. And that's a thing, too, because within a series, there's a lot of variability. I do think the Nuggets and the Rockets, teams we've been talking about since the summer, are built to at least try to challenge them. And we'll see who else emerges. But, yeah, it would be crazy to pick anybody but the Thunder right now.
Howard, you're the man. Appreciate the time. Have an excellent weekend, sir, and we'll get you back on soon.
Thanks, Spence. Take care.
All right, the great Howard Beck from The Ringer, one of my favorite NBA writers of all time. At Howard Beck is where you find him on social. Does a really, really good job. Brought to you today by our friends at Advanced Window Products, which is Utah's #1 window replacement company. And with their winter special offer, you get $2,500 off when you buy 10 windows or more. All right? Local Salt Lake company operated by the University of Utah Hall of Famer Nate Orchard, the mayor of Sac Lake City. So here's the deal. Give them a call today at 801-850-9100 or visit advancedwindows.com. Don't miss out on $2,500 off when you buy 10 windows or more. Give Jake and the mayor a call today at 801-850-9100. You will not regret it. Advanced Window Products, building, installing, and guaranteeing the best windows in Utah. Okay. Hello. How are you? Did a little NBA there. The news of the day today that is very fluid is the following. We'll get you caught up. So this radio show typically begins just after 2 o'clock. We usually do crosstalk when Sean's in town. Scott Mitchell in for Sean O'Connell today. So we did crosstalk till about 2:04, took a break, and then right as I was about to crack this microphone to go on air, an email spills in from Utah Athletics announcing that Coach Witt has stepped down. It did not say that Coach Witt is retiring. It said that he is stepping down. Now, it says he's going to coach the Vegas Bowl on December the 31st. And then after the first segment, with which I basically treated it as if Kyle was retiring and kind of transitioning into his role as an advisor to Morgan and the football program for the athletic department, Stuart Mandel, who we have reached out to from The Athletic, is reporting that his sources are telling him that this is not a retirement, hence the language of the announcement, and he is stepping down and he has interest in other coaching opportunities. What does that look like? Well, Michigan needs a head coach. Coach Witt's good friend Andy Reid coaches the Chiefs, where his son is an assistant. Could he go to the NFL? Very fluid, receiving a lot of texts about how this is going down. We're going to catch a break, and then Sean O'Connell is going to join us. Of course, Sean is in France for the PFL Championships. He's typically the host of our midday show, and he played football at the U. We've got a couple of other guests potentially stopping by. It's a very fluid situation. I will say that I am surprised that certain text messages that are always responded to, as far as guys we've reached out to get on the show to talk about this, are not being responded to today. And if this was simply a Coach Witt is retiring, time to pay honor to Kyle, every single one of these texts would have been responded to, and they would have been jumping at the opportunity to come on the show and say thank you to Witt. Everyone's radio silent today. There's something up. We're going to try to figure it out. Sean will join us coming up next, and we'll go from there right here on ESPN 700. Well, I'm getting a lot of text messages. I would imagine our next guest is getting the same. So just to catch you up, literally as the intro to this show was going, we received the email from the Utah Athletic Department that Kyle Whittingham is stepping down as Utah's head football coach. Did not say he is retiring from coaching. So the first segment was a heartfelt thank you to Kyle. And then we brought Eric Weddle on. And as the Eric Weddle interview was kind of moving along, Stuart Mandel from The Athletic reports that his sources, and Stuart would know, okay? I know a lot of people might not love Stuart Mandel. What you can't argue with is that he is very plugged in, maybe one of the top 4 or 5 college football media members in the country. And his sources are telling him that this is not a retirement, and Kyle is still very much interested in coaching. There's a school in Ann Arbor that needs a head coach. There is a NFL team named the Kansas City Chiefs that is coached by Andy Reid, who is one of Kyle's good friends, and Kyle's son is an assistant. I don't know what to make of this entire thing. We go live to France because this is a classy show where we find Sean O'Connell sipping on a baklava shake. Hello, Sean.
No baklava shake. But, it is, man, what a news dump for Utah football, throwing this out at 10 p.m. France time. What are we doing, people?
Yeah, consider the French, McJunkin. My goodness. All right, Sean, I said I'm getting blown up, but you're an alum. You played there. I would imagine your phone is going crazy. So let me just get your reaction to the news that he is stepping down, the Mandel report that he's still interested in coaching, and what you think comes next.
Well, the reaction is, I think the only appropriate reaction is one that sounds like you started the show with, just gratitude. You know, we had 21 pretty incredible years and now have a Utah football program that the entire alumni base, the fans of the university, the professors at the university, you can be proud of Utah football. And that's something pretty special. And Kyle Whittingham is the biggest part of that. So, you know, gratitude to Coach. He's been a great example to a lot of young men that have flown through that program, and he's won a lot of football games. And it's there was a time, Spence, when you and I were going to school at the University of Utah, especially when you were going to the school at the University of Utah, where what was accomplished under Kyle Whittingham was completely unfathomable. It was like a most ridiculous figment of the silliest imagination, and he climbed a lot of hills and did a lot of things, and we should be appreciative of that. I did think that this was probably coming at some point, and then we saw the big-time commitments rolling in, and we saw this private equity deal that's supposed to provide more resources, and I was like, man, we know that Kyle Whittingham is still pretty competitive, and it might be enticing to him to say, well, can I be even more competitive if I have these resources at my disposal? But also he is not one who's prone to the whims of external factors, and it seems like this is a decision that he and his family have made probably over the course of the last almost 3 years. So I'm not shocked to see him go. I'm not even sad to see him go, but there's a little melancholy in it because, you know, it's the end of an era at the University of Utah. As far as the report that maybe he's still interested in coaching, I think that's true. But I think you hit the two jobs on the head. I think that he's not interested in taking a lateral step, but he's certainly not interested in taking a backward step. If you can go to a place like Michigan and calm the waters there as a, you know, sort of short-term fix while they figure out who their next athletic director is probably going to be, because you got to get rid of Ward Emanuel, and you're obviously anti-scandal right now. If you're a Michigan president, a Michigan fan, there are a few coaches in all of college football who are less scandalous than Kyle Whittingham. So I think that's an incredibly far-fetched possibility, but it's probably the type of job that he would be interested in. And he has said for years, I think publicly and also privately, that the NFL does intrigue him. That's a different level. And Andy Reid is not exactly having his best year, and the Kansas City Chiefs are probably going to have some mix-up on their coaching staff. So maybe Kyle Whittingham does get a call to be some type of advisor there. But I think the most likely outcome here is that Kyle Whittingham entertains a couple of phone calls and offers and decides that he's going to ski and ride his motorcycle and hang out with his grandkids, and we'll continue to give him his flowers as we watch Morgan Scalley take over.
And I don't have Witt's contract in front of me, but my understanding is throughout the years when he's been able to renegotiate, like when Tennessee came calling or when he was able to get extensions as part of his contract, is a very lucrative retirement package where I guess he would be a special advisor to the athletic department of the football program. And I'm not a contract lawyer. I don't know if you knew that, Sean. My guess would be if he took another job, that more or less would be compromised, right? Isn't that fair to say?
Well, probably, but also is Kyle Whittingham not the guy who's going to have either his name on the field or a statue in front of Rice-Eccles Stadium? So let's say that he does take another job, and again, I think it's probably less likely that he does than anything else. When he comes back and says, "Hey, I'd like to be an advisor to the program, or I'd like to help you out in the athletic department," who's going to say no to Kyle Whittingham?
The athletic director?
I guess you have a private equity bro to say that, but I mean, if the athletic director says, "Okay, all-time winningest coach, okay, legend who helped build this program from, not nothing certainly, because the foundation had already been laid, but build this program up to its highest heights. We don't want you involved anymore." It just doesn't make sense that would be the case.
Well, see, I got to be careful here. I don't know how much of this to go on air with, because I don't want to even imply that Witt was encouraged to do this. I would imagine whether it's Taylor Randall or Mark Harlan, but I honestly don't know. I'm just trying to connect the dots and surmise how this most likely went down. I guess I'll just ask you as an alum and somebody who's plugged in with former teammates and the coaching staff up there, is there any part of you that believes that this wasn't Kyle's call entirely? I'll just ask it like that.
No, I think this was Kyle's call. Spence, you and I talked about this before the Kansas State game.
Yep.
I said, I think this is his last home game. I think that I'm going to look into the stands and I'm going to try and figure out who is there from the Whittingham family. And every single Whittingham was there, every one of them. Every person whose maiden name was Whittingham was there. Every person it was a gathering of the Whittingham clan at the Kansas State game. And that was the sort of final straw for me. I said, okay, they don't gather on the field after – they weren't being real sneaky about it, Spence. And I didn't go to the air with this because it felt icky to do so because it was a family thing. But when we walked out of the post-game presser after that Kansas State game, and you have to kind of exit through that tunnel, right? The Crimson Club seats have the tunnel that goes out into the south end zone. I walked out there to go up into the parking lot, and there was a massive group family photo being posed on the field at Rice-Eccles Stadium. I've been to a lot of Final Home games in a lot of seasons that Kyle Whittingham's been the head coach. I haven't seen that before. And so I think the family had been told this is probably it. And I was told by people who went on the road for the Kansas game that there was a heck of a lot more Whittinghams at that game than they were used to seeing. So I think that the clan knew that this was probably it. And maybe it wasn't a final decision made at that point, but the tea leaves have been giving us these signs for 3 years. He would have walked away last year. He said as much on my show and on your show. Couldn't walk away on a bad note like that, which means I was thinking about walking away, but I couldn't do it on a 5-win season. I'm too competitive for that. So he came back for another year. I think he made his intentions relatively clear to Morgan. Hey, you're not going to have to wait that much longer. He probably said the same thing to Mark Harlan probably with less clarity. Maybe they said, hey, man, you've been leaning this way, and we have this new era of the athletic department coming in with this money and stuff. So do you feel like now is the time? Because we feel like now is the time. But ultimately, the decision was always going to be his, and it's not like he hasn't been hinting at this for months and months and months and years.
Yeah, and I've just been echoing your sentiment on my show all year that you've been steadfast in your belief that this was it. I was convinced after the K-State game, then after the Kansas game, the final 2 games of the season, when he became emotional after the K-State win, and lost in the coverage was the actual sentence that sent him. It wasn't about a player. It wasn't about a game. It was when he said, the last chance at Rice-Eccles Stadium. That got him, all right? And so that hit me right away. And then after the Kansas win, when he admitted, really for the first time, I mean, you had a good interview with him that I think a lot of people don't give you enough credit for, where he did kind of talk about his thought process. But he was very front-facing in admitting that he was close to walking away a year ago. So after the Kansas game, my show all week, I led with it on Monday. I said, I'm now comfortable saying into this microphone that it is my opinion. Not, okay, Sean tells me this and I trust Sean. Like, I am now of the opinion that Kyle is going to step down. The deadline, as I understood it, was a week ago today. I didn't know when we were going to hear it publicly, and today it is now public news. I've had a couple of people surmise that they don't believe he's coaching in the bowl game. Do you think come New Year's Eve against Nebraska, Kyle Whittingham's on the sidelines?
I think so, unless he does take some other job. And again, I think that's less than likely. But I think you'll have him there, even just for appearances' sake, even just to say, wave at the fans that make the trip down to Vegas and kind of do that, which is feels much more like a Jamie Whittingham thing than like a Kyle Whittingham thing. But, what's being reported right now is that he intends to coach the bowl game, and that he pointed to Morgan Scalley and said, after the bowl game, that's going to be your head coach. So I think he'll finish it out. I mean, Kyle Whittingham is the dude who finishes what he starts, right? So if there's one more game in the season, he's going to be there in some capacity.
All right, moving over to what we do know, and that is there is a new coach, and it is Morgan. He slides over a seat. Weddle was great earlier, basically speaking for the alumni. And if there's a guy that can speak for the alumni, I would think it's safe to say that it's Eric Weddle. But the sentiment among former players and the confidence that this is the right move sounds like what, Sean?
Incredibly high, that Morgan is the dude. Now, look, Morgan's going to have to do what every head coach does and make sure he fills his staff out with the right guys. And sometimes that means, building bridges with other people that you don't know very well. One of the criticisms, if you go back 10 years to when, Kyle Whittingham was struggling with his offense and hiring a new coordinator every year, one of the criticisms was you have to be able to hire people that don't come from your coaching tree, that you didn't coach yourself, that aren't, your nephews or whatever it was. So Morgan might have to do that at some point. Kalani Sitake, when he took over at BYU, what did he do? He hired a bunch of guys that he had made promises to on his way up the ladder, and guys that he was really close friends with and he was teammates with. And he had to overhaul that staff in order to find the era of success that he's got right now. So there might be some growing pains with Morgan in filling out his staff, but Morgan absolutely is the right leader for this program. I think he's an incredible recruiter. I think he's a great person. I think that, he is as Utah comes. I mean, his entire coaching life has been here. His playing life was here. He went to high school. I guess East High School is closer than Highland is, and West is probably closer than Highland is. But he went to high school at like the third closest high school to the university. I mean, he grew up in the shadow of Rice-Eccles Stadium in a figurative sense. So there could not be a better person to take over the program. Could not be a person with more knowledge of exactly what it takes to get people to love it here, to stay and appreciate the development that they're going to get from guys that have been on this staff. I don't know if he's going to be able to keep all the assistants that we're used to, but he is 100% the right guy.
The Sean O'Connell, it's the Christmas season. So if you had to write a letter to Santa, Sean, and you were asking Santa to deliver your preferred defensive coordinator, what would that letter sound like exactly?
Oh, man. I would say, Santa, I would like co-defensive coordinators, which won't happen, by the way, but this is my Christmas letter.
It is.
So you don't get to correct me on it. And I would say, Santa, I would like co-defensive coordinators at the University of Utah. I would like Jay Hill, because he's only going to be a coordinator for one more year, and Colton Swan to be the co-defensive coordinators. Share that load. Jay ends up taking a head coaching job. Colton Swan then is fully prepared, having been mentored through the process by somebody like Jay Hill. And the side bonus there is it undermines BYU's success because they don't have Jay Hill anymore.
The natural follow-up is, have you been naughty or nice this year, Sean?
Always nice.
Okay, so no lump of coal. You get what you wish for. All right, I'm going to be irresponsible here for a moment because it's sports talk radio. We'll leave the journalism to the Kamranis of the world. The hypothetical sounds like this. We find out within the next, 24 hours that the University of Michigan has hired Kyle Whittingham. Who goes with him to Ann Arbor?
Oh man, you're killing me by making me say it. I already took my tweet down because I started to feel bad about stirring up the drink. Look, Kyle Whittingham takes Gary Anderson to be his defensive coordinator, and he takes Jason Beck to be his offensive coordinator.
I cannot believe that we're even talking about this on Sports Talk Radio. It's so weird.
But I want to make it clear. I think that is less than likely because Michigan would be very wise to make that phone call. I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to be like, well, let's get Kalen DeBoer out of Alabama and let's pay him $15 million a year. And they're going to reset the market again by doing it, where you wouldn't have to do that with Kyle Whittingham necessarily. But, those are Michigan problems, not mine.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's a weird show to do today because I didn't prep for any of this. I didn't know the news was going to come down, that I didn't expect the Mandel report that he still wants to coach. But honestly, Kyle Whittingham in Ann Arbor feels like it makes a lot of sense. Like, it actually feels like a pretty synergistic fit.
Yeah, I mean, like I already stated, there's nobody that could calm the waters more quickly than Kyle Whittingham. Mm-hmm. And it's not like the splash hire that gets every Michigan fan and student excited, like, oh my gosh, this is a guy who's going to win us a national championship next year. But it is a hire that you could not find a single person out there willing to criticize or able to criticize, because what your goals should be at Michigan right now are to hire someone who's a proven commodity as a head coach, as a recruiter, as a developer of talent, and as a steadying force. And I mean, I guess, you know what, Kirk Ferentz at Iowa might be just as good of a hire, but they're very familiar with him. They know his problems in the Big Ten, and they don't want those at Michigan. So look, I don't think it's going to happen, but if I were the athletic director or the university president at the University of Michigan, as soon as I saw that news come across my desk, I'd be getting the phone number of Kyle Whittingham's agent, especially when I saw Kamrani and Stuart Mandel saying, hey, he might still coach. He's just stepping away from Utah because it's time and it's Morgan Scalley's turn.
All right, last thing, then I'll set you loose. Away from the rumors, away from what's next. The Sean O'Connell opinion, if I ask you to be a bit reductive so I can set you loose, Kyle Whittingham's legacy as Utah's head football coach sounds like what?
Best coach in program history, one of the best coaches, and we've seen in all of college football. Put up the statue and just be happy that you had someone who was able to navigate the craziness of taking over from Urban Meyer, replicating the Fiesta Bowl success and taking it to a higher height by beating Alabama in a Sugar Bowl. And then, of course, pushing this program, this university, this athletic department, this community, this team through a transition into power football, into the Pac-12 conference, where you didn't just like hang around and you didn't just do a decent job. You ended up building yourself first into a conference championship contender, and then into a conference champion, and into a nationally respected perennial top 25 team. You were a college football power in Salt Lake City, Utah, that 2 decades ago was a basketball town, mostly because of Kyle Whittingham. That's as good a legacy as anyone's going to leave at any college football program.
Well said, Sean. Appreciate the time. Enjoy the PFL championships. Enjoy France. Travel safe, and we'll see you next week, okay?
All right. See you next week. Thanks.
All right. The great Sean O'Connell with some perspective on the massive news that broke right as we were starting this radio show. Kyle Whittingham stepping down after 21 years as Utah's head coach. We are out to several different guests. A lot of them have gone quiet, and we'll explain why coming up in a bit. But we'll do a little golf as our guy Paul Pugmire stops by on a Friday. Hello, Paul. How are you, sir?
Doing good, Spencer. You're a busy man.
I am a busy man, and we thought we were going to have a slow week, but it certainly has been the exact opposite. Look, I know you're a golf guy, but you're also a man in our community. What do you make of the 21 years with Kyle Whittingham as Utah football's head coach?
Jerry Sloan territory.
Yeah.
Absolutely one of the greatest sports figures, but I'm going to go bigger than that because I think Sloan was bigger than that. One of the greatest people our state has produced. He happens to be a sportsman, but I think he is one of the great people, one of the great men this state has ever produced.
Have you ever golfed with him? I know he loves to play. You haven't, okay?
I know. I've looked for the opportunity, but I haven't had it yet. But look, he's not done, and whether he goes or whether O'Connell changes what he says and decides whether Witt takes me to Michigan with him, who knows? Mm-hmm. But Kyle Whittingham is stepping down as coach of the Utes. He's going to be around, and he's still a Salt Lake guy. I'm still hopeful. I'm still looking for a chance to play golf with this guy.
I often find it hilarious that so many gentlemen are like, okay, I'm going to retire and I'm going to go play golf, when golf is like the worst possible thing for your mental health that you could do. Why is it that so many people want to retire and do something that is so maddening?
So isn't that a puzzle? I think it has to do with the time that it takes. And, now they'll have time for what can be long rounds. We all know that. That's a frustrating thing, but it can happen. And then, of course, the time that it takes simply to work on your game. So I do think it's a time issue as much as anything, but we all know that people who are committed to the game and want to make time for it absolutely can do that throughout their lives. Is there a common denominator in anybody that you've seen that ultimately retires? Because a lot of these guys are so competitive that I don't think they care to just go do anything casually. Like I would imagine if Witt wants to golf, Witt wants to be really, really, really good at golf. Like, have you seen any of this? Like former players, former coaches who are like, yeah, I'm going to take up this sport and then realize how hard it is and then just get maniacal about trying to be better at it? Well, the top of that list is John Brody, who, of course, was an all-pro quarterback, mostly for the Chargers, but also the 49ers. Brody won a tournament on the Champions Tour. When he was done with football, he kept himself in shape, and he put the effort into it. Obviously, an athlete. He got good. He got way good, and he won on the Champions Tour. It's no small thing, man.
Is there any sport that kind of lends itself to being naturally good? I mean, look, golf is so hard that when you say you're good at it, it's very relative. But is it like baseball because of the swing? Like my brother-in-law was the captain of BYU's hockey team. He swings his golf club like he's taking a slap shot. I've seen a lot of ex-basketball players be really good because of, ultimately hand-eye coordination. Is there another sport that lends itself to just being naturally not good at golf, but just be able to grasp the basics?
You identified the top three. The baseball swing is a golf swing on the horizontal. There's a great baseball swing coach named George Lau who taught two Hall of Famers, Rod Carew and George Brett. And Lau was famous for saying it's a golf swing on the horizontal, and he taught a golf swing. And then you mentioned basketball. There is the hand-eye that goes in with basketball, but it's more than that. There's the balance that is essential in making a jump shot and is essential in executing a golf swing. And then, of course, you mentioned hockey. If you want to have some fun, drop a quarter in Mike Weir and talk about the similarities between the hockey action and a golf swing. They're rotational. And with hockey, you have to keep your back skate from sliding out from underneath you, right? So you have to push off in golf. They're very similar. And then to that, I would add one that's counterintuitive but very strong, and that's dance. Dancers know where they have great body spatial awareness. They know where their body is 3D in space. And that is a real asset in golf as well.
Well, I'm signing up for ballroom as we speak, Paul, if that's the deal. All right, so I've got the schedule in front of me. This obviously is a bit of a downtime, known as kind of the off season, but we've got PGA Tour Q School going on right now, which I can't imagine the intensity and the pressure on those young men trying to take the next step. But Any other storylines in the world of golf that are catching your attention right now?
Well, Q School is the big one, and there is so much human drama going on in Q School. And just real quickly, the format here: 4 rounds, so 72 holes, which is what a championship should be. 72 holes to determine the top 5. The top 5 get a PGA Tour card. The next 40, so from 6 through 46, they through 41, they get Korn Ferry Tour status. Now, there's a lot of players in the field. In particular, for our for what we follow, there are 3 Utahns in the field who already have Korn Ferry status, or in the case of Zach Blair, conditional status on the big tour, on the PGA Tour. They are there because they can do it, and they are there trying to play into the top 5. But they're playing with house money. I'm talking about Zach Blair, Daniel Summerhays, and Peter Quest. They're playing with house money. They already have Quest and Summerhays already have Korn Ferry status. Zach Blair has Korn Ferry status plus conditional status on the PGA Tour. They're just trying to play into the top 5. If they do, bully. If they don't, then they already know what they're doing next year anyway.
Good points. All right. What's coming up on the show tomorrow before I set you loose?
Yeah, well, there's a lot still going on in Utah golf. We have an amazing champion in Utah in Max Togisala. Max is in a dominant way the best seeded player in the world, and he just won. He plays out of a wheelchair. He was paralyzed in a skiing accident, and he just won the Arizona seeded championship, added to the Minnesota seeded championship, and the 3-time USGA national championship that he has won. We're going to be talking with Max Togisala, and we're going to be talking about the awards that were announced here recently from the Utah PGA.
Good stuff, Paul. Thanks for the time on a Friday. Have a great weekend, and maybe get out and play golf. We still have some decent weather, yeah?
Look at that. It's December somewhere, but it looks like springtime to me out there.
I'll take it as long as I can get it. Playing Davis on Sunday. Be good, all right?
Nice. Thank you.
All right, Paul Pugmire, want to remind you that ESPN 700 and the Rocky Mountain Chevy dealers invite you to help those at the road home this holiday season with needed blankets, coats, shoes, hats, and gloves. Drop off donations at any Rocky Mountain Chevy dealer. Visit ESPN700sports.com for dealer locations. Spread the warmth and help others find their way home. And join us at the Midvale Road Home Mediathon, December 18th and the 19th. And by the way, if you're looking for good Christmas gifts for the golfer in your life, you got to go to Uinta Golf. I was there this week. They've got great deals. Latest on Ping, Callaway, Titleist, TaylorMade, and more. Salt Lake, Riverdale, Sandy, and Orem, serving Utah since 1971. Simulators, club fitting and repair, and more. Go to uintagolf.com. 2 hours down, 2 hours to go. More on the big news. The Coach Witt has stepped down as the head coach of the University of Utah football team. We'll get to more coming up on a Friday Drive on ESPN 700. Been a wild day. Porter trying to make the community emotional, playing Freebird as Kyle Whittingham has stepped down as Utah's head football coach. He has not retired, but he has stepped down. Out to a number of different guests. We got about 2 hours left on the show. Started things out with Eric Weddle, one of Coach Witt's certain success stories. And we caught up with Sean O'Connell, who's overseas doing a little PFL. Our next guest is an expert in the space of college football coaches. He's either hunting elk or cooking edibles. I'm not sure what Friday brings for Dave Bartu, but Dave, how are you, sir?
Dude, I'm doing good. I was the phone number starts coming in, and I was like, "Hey, Coach, I gotta go. I got another coach," and so you got me out of a staffing discussion from across the country, so I appreciate it.
Okay, there you go. And look, you have joined us over the years, and you have always had very, very kind things to say about Witt, high praise for Witt. And now he steps aside as the head coach. What sort of perspective can you give our community as far as just how good of a job he did here as Utah's head football coach?
Well, I mean, you lost a top 20 graded active head coach. I mean, those guys just don't grow on trees. And look at the turnover of that industry and how almost impossible it is to have a tenure of, well, greater than 10 years. So, I mean, he navigated the program out of the group of five into the Pac-12, built it into what it is today. There's not a whole lot of guys in college football that can say, I am unequivocally the man that built this football program from basically the ground up. So, you think about guys like that across the country. BYU's got Lavelle Edwards. I mean, the Ducks got Mike Bellotti, Tom James at Washington. I mean, you think about all the number one guys, Bill Snyder at Kansas State. You start putting it into perspective of all these number one guys of these top programs that are out there. He's not just an amazing active head coach that's stepping down. It was a legendary guy in college football.
And you analyze a number of different, pieces when it comes to what makes college football coaches either, very successful, and you're also good at pointing out the college football coaches that might be a little bit over their skis. What can you share about what you believe Witt's secret sauce was? Recruiting, defensive prowess, X's and O's, whatever that sounds like, Dave. Why was he so good at his job?
Gosh, there's so many intangible things. With all the head coaches I've worked with over the last decade plus, the really, really good ones, they all have little just intangible stuff that you really can't account for. I would say number one, though, is mentally the ability to be organized and focused and driven day in and day out. There's so many people, especially now with people getting fired. Oh, look at how much money they make. I should have been a head coach. Man, these are different animals. They are just wired differently. Everything that their genetics, they're born with and how they're brought up. And it's almost inexplicable. And sometimes you got to get a little lucky on the way. And I'd probably say the thing I point to when you look at a lot of coaches that have done it really, really good for a long time is they are able to find and retain excellence better than most guys. And, so when I think of Utah football, the first thing I think of is Whittingham. But I also look at the staff and I go, he's got a top 10 defensive coordinator in Morgan Scalley, and he had him for a long, long time relative to what most other coaches have in terms of coordinators. So I think part of it is maybe one of the intangibles besides those things I just mentioned is the ability to build a culture and bring in coaches that don't want to leave, because you can leave for more money in a lot of places. Especially when you're that good. I think probably one of the unsung things that people don't talk about that much is the coaching continuity that he was able to manufacture at his time in Utah.
So when it comes to, you reference Morgan Scalley, who now will be the guy, he slides over one seat, and your metrics have always indicated that he's also elite at what he does. What sort of head coach do you think Morgan Scalley's going to make, Dave?
No idea, man. No idea. We can get hammered right now and throw darts. It's the same probability, right? Because he's never done the head coaching thing before. He could become one of the greatest head coaches in college football. But we've seen plenty of guys that are elite at offense or defense fail at that, and vice versa. There's guys that, aren't good at what they've done, and somehow they, look at Kenny Dillingham. He had one good year in his entire life with Oregon and Bo Nix, and somehow he parlayed it into doing a great job at Arizona State. But by the numbers, could we have seen that coming? Heck no. Now, will it surprise us if Utah continues having great defense and he's a really, really good defensive head coach? No, it won't surprise us. But how well he handles the offense and staffing and recruiting and NIL and so forth. Look, Kyle had a long runway to figure all that stuff out. And I know Morgan has been learning this side by side, but it's really different for guys watching people put their feet in the fire versus getting your feet put in the fire. Kind of like that Mike Tyson. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Well, we're going to find out what Morgan's all about when he gets punched in the mouth. He's been doing this long enough, but there's no guarantee of success or failure at this level. This is a blank slate, baby. It's not good. It's not bad. We're just hopeful as Ute fans.
Do you have any, and I may be catching you off guard, so there's probably a spreadsheet somewhere that you have where you could dig this up. But when it comes to the history of just moving coordinators into the head coach role, Ryan Day, you could come up with a lot off the top of your head that have worked and maybe some that haven't. More often than not, is it the right move, or is the data kind of cloudy?
It's pretty cloudy on that, right? Next man up always scares me, man. It really does. But I think a lot of it, though, depends on how much influence Kyle continues to have, in that transition. Now, this has been a long runway, so this isn't a surprise. He isn't suddenly retiring and, oh, my gosh, now Morgan's up to bat. I mean, this was probably decided last year at the beginning of the season, who knows when. So emotionally, there's been a preparation there. But if you notice, in recent years, next man up has been very, very successful when the guy that planned it all out sticks around, right? Chip Kelly was nothing without Mike Bellotti. We didn't realize it till Chip left and tried to be head coach somewhere else and go, wow, he really sucks at this except for the X's and O's. So Mike helped with the transition because he built that in. Bob Stoops helped with the transition in Lincoln Riley, and built that in. So this transition between Kyle and Morgan has been going on for a while. It'll be interesting to see going forward because everybody's talking about, well, he's not retiring. He could still work out there. Yeah, I've seen his contract. You can retire if you want to. I know what the pay is going forward for the rest of your life, so he can do whatever the hell he wants to do. I would just love to see him be a greater part or stick around in that transition for the Utes. But, it's not necessary. And, again, back to your question, it's there's no rhyme or reason if it's going to be successful or fail just because of the situation.
Let me ask you about Utah's offensive coordinator, Jason Beck. It's a new situation with 1 year of data, at least on the P4 level in the Big 12. I mean, he had coached in other places, but we talk a lot with you over the years about Witt, about Morgan, and then, of course, Coach Andy Ludwig, who is no longer here, was let go last year. But what does your data say about Jason Beck as far as a play caller and offensive coordinator?
I'd extend him right now if I could. If I'm Morgan Scalley, it's probably the first thing I do for continuity. He's been really good. The offense has been solid. He's done it at two places now, so it's portable. Right? This is an offense that works in two spots. It's not just one that worked somewhere at one spot forever. So we got a portable offense. We have a rising star in terms of offensive coordinator ability, and we're looking for continuity here. So I think that I'm honestly surprised. I haven't had more people in all the coaching searches that I've been in around the country. There haven't been a lot of reports requested for him. Which has really been a bit of a surprise for me because I think there's a tremendous amount of upside. And in the Big 12, like it or not, big teams can poach your guys, right? There's just more money on the other side if they want to do that. So I like the hire when Kyle hired him, and I think he's done a very, very good job. And I think it'd be very, very difficult to upgrade that position right now, given the current circumstance in college football.
So it's been an interesting day, Dave, because the Kyle Whittingham news came down 2 minutes before we started the show. We were expecting it at some point. The deadline for him to inform the administration was last Friday, but nothing became public until literally we cracked the mic. And this is live radio. It's not a podcast. The light goes on. You got to do the thing. So, we had Eric Weddle on, and we've talked a lot about, Kyle's legacy and said thank you and ultimately what it means. And then as the Weddle interview was ending, Stuart Mandel from The Athletic is reporting that Kyle is not retiring and is interested in other coaching opportunities. So it's kind of become this fluid situation. And, there's a school in Ann Arbor that's been in the news that might need a head coach. Do you think that there would be any interest there, either with Michigan calling Kyle or Kyle answering that phone call?
Okay. I'm going to say this again for the millionth time. Okay. Not on this show, but this is just for everybody listening, because I have been in dozens of head coaching searches, and I've been in hundreds of staff builds. Okay. Everybody in the media throws S against the wall when it comes down to the coaching carousel. There's no accountability. Anybody, even Stuart Mandel, anybody can make anything up for a click, and they do. Okay. 99% of what you hear out there is made up. It doesn't exist. It is just simply there to drive people talking about it and get people to click. Now, there is 1% that is real, and that 1% is driven by agents. Okay, the agents get stuff out there. You ever wonder why somebody has why is John David Baker suddenly the hot name out there when he's had one good year in his career? Agents drive this stuff. So it's a 9-1, and I can unequivocally say every search I've ever been in, okay, head coach, coordinators, unit guys, you name it. I'm working on 17 right now, just right now this year alone. Okay. Nothing has ever leaked. Nothing other than agents putting stuff out there and people guessing. Nothing has ever leaked. So to your question about Kyle, yeah, maybe he is. I take all of that with an incredible grain of salt, no matter who it comes from. It could just simply be a dart throw, just getting a reaction. So that could happen, but let's just wait and see. It doesn't change the trajectory of the Utes program right now, but I'll believe it when I see it.
Fair enough, and more or less I'm with you. Mandel's a guy I've had on the show and seems to be well sourced, and I have been in contact with somebody who knows him and said most of his contacts are agents, so maybe it is Kyle's agent floating it out there to say, hey, my guy's not done. But let's move over into the space of what you think is most likely with Kyle. I mean, he has a very nice retirement package at his disposal. Once he steps aside, he's, quote, a special advisor, which means he's still being paid a lot of money to stay as connected to the program as Morgan wants him or as Mark wants him. And you referenced earlier that the succession plan that has worked has included the next man up, but also the guy that was there before kind of sticking around to help him guide him into the next era of Utah football. Do you think that's the most likely thing we're going to see with Kyle?
I do. And as far as Michigan goes, I see a lot of names floated out there. I've heard that Michigan is quote unquote nuclear right now. A lot of issues going on there, but that doesn't seem to perturb a lot of head coaches. Because Michigan is still a ginormous brand, and the amount of money to get paid to go there is huge, and the talent is, well, we know what the talent level is. So I still go with best man available. I don't think that's Jed Fish, a guy who's won less than 30% of his road games as a head coach. Yeah, not my guy. And so I would stick with, to me, I'm sticking with the bigger names. I'm going Braum. I'm going Lincoln Riley. And Brian Kelly. I think those are the three names that you should look out for in the process. If I had to pick one, I don't think I'll pick one. That's a pretty big job, but I think those, if you said, Dave, give me three that you'd go after first and foremost, I think it would be those guys.
I don't know what to ask you about Sharon Moore. I mean, that was such a wild 24 hours. You know, we were on air when the news came down that he had been fired. And then as I was driving home, I get the alert on my phone that he had been arrested. I mean, look, talk about a generational fumbling of the bag. You lose your job. You're not going to get any of the money owed to you. And I don't know his wife, but I would imagine she's not pumped about this entire thing. But away from that, what sort of coach was he, and what's your reaction to just kind of how that whole thing went down?
Well, you know, I mean, as a person, personally, and have known a lot of people, I think we've all known a lot of people that as we get older, because I ain't no spring chicken anymore, we know of, we've had, but there's probably a lot of people listening that just emotionally, there's missteps, there's breakdowns. It's inexplicable, you know, triggers in our heads. So whatever drove him to his emotional situation, that's rough. And I hope he's better for it and can work his way through that. But as a coach, there was pretty average. There wasn't anything special there. Offensively, struggled on the offensive side of the ball, hiring that side. I think he lived a lot off of Harbaugh's culture and the depth of the defensive side. You know, he brought in Wink Martindale, who's done a pretty good job overall at Michigan relative to the talent. But when it comes right down to it, has he excelled the gifts that he was given from a talent and schedule standpoint? No. And I think on the offensive side, he struggled to find any sort of rhythm there whatsoever. And I do feel that since he took over, the program's been on a slow regression. It makes me feel, when you look at the numbers, if I put Mark Helfrich, Oregon, and Sharon Moore, Michigan, side by side, and it's just Coach A and Coach B, and you watch the regressions of where it came from, they're pretty similar in terms of their spiral down over the years.
Other piece of coaching news before I say you lose, since you and I last spoke, and when you and I last spoke, Kalani Sitake was flirting with Penn State, but he decided to continue to live with his wife of BYU. A very healthy raise for Kalani and his assistants. As a guy that knows the landscape, your thoughts on Kalani saying no to a very premier job to stay with BYU?
Yeah, I don't think he was ever going. It wasn't even, if you'd asked me, Dave, are you worried about Kalani leaving for Penn State? Nope. I'm just wondering what his raise is going to be when they renew him. That's it. That's all. That's it. There wasn't even any. I think once the president of Penn State took over, it was all Matt Campbell, and that was it for a long time. So, well, you know, I'm glad Kalani got the raise. I hope everybody did. They've earned it. They've done a tremendous job. I mean, if you look at the last 24 regular season games outside of Curt Cignetti, has anybody been more amazing than Kalani Sitake? No, I don't believe so. So, you know, all very, very deserving there. But I think there was a little bit more drama. Remember what I said about the 99% of the media driving clicks? I think there was a lot more drama there than there actually was.
Okay, fair enough. And you're the guy that would kind of help us understand all this, Dave. So, look, I appreciate the time. Have a great weekend, whatever you're doing, hunting elk, cooking edibles. It's always good to be Dave Bartu.
Take it easy, Spencer.
All right.
You.
Dave Bartu, College Football Matrix. He is one of the foremost experts on the college coaching landscape. Always been a big-time fan of Witt and Morgan Scalley, so some good insight there from Dave. Garrett Bowles is going to join us. Nice work by Porter to kind of scramble a little bit. I've seen some of your social media reaction about my Howard Beck interview. It is a freaking 4-hour radio show. We did 10 minutes of NBA. You can stuff your tweets, you know, where the sun doesn't shine. We're going, by the time the show ends, we're going to do 3 hours and 50 minutes on the college football landscape. We had one 10-minute interview, so get a hobby. Relax. Garrett Bowles is going to stop by coming up. I want to remind you that ESPN 700, the Rocky Mountain Chevy dealers, invite you to help those at the road home this holiday season with needed blankets, coats, shoes, hats, and gloves. Drop off donations at any Rocky Mountain Chevy dealer. Visit ESPN700sports.com for dealer locations. Spread the warmth and help others find their way home. And join us at the Midvale Road Home Mediathon, December 18th through the 19th. Utah legend and current Denver Bronco Garrett Bowles is our guest, coming up next on ESPN 700. Well, was expecting kind of a quiet Friday show. And then as we were about to crack this microphone to start the program today, we received an email from the Utah Athletics Department, our guy Keeler McJunkin, that Coach Witt is stepping down. Kyle Whittingham, the all-time winningest head coach in the history of the University of Utah's football program, will step down from leading the Utes and will continue his highly successful tenure in the Las Vegas Bowl on December the 31st. Our next guest is one of Coach Witt's success stories. Certainly the bulk of the credit goes to the player, which is Garrett Bowles on a Friday afternoon. Garrett, happy Friday, buddy. How we doing?
I'm doing good, Checketts. How are you, my guy?
I'm well. I really appreciate your time. So just your instant reaction. You know, we've had Eric Weddle on. We've had Sean O'Connell on. It feels like a lot of people maybe saw this coming, but now that it is official, what does Garrett Bowles have to say about Coach Witt stepping down?
Well, number one, it's always sad when you have a coach like that step down that has done not just so much amazing things for me, but just amazing people for so many players and so many people in the state of Utah. And, you know, where he took, you know, obviously took over for Urban Meyer and then took, you know, this team to where it's at now is just an unbelievable career for him. And, you know, the relationship that I have with him means the world to me. I love him so much. He's given me everything I could imagine. Taught me to be a better father, better football player. Taught me, you know, mental toughness and so many things that has applied to my life, not just as a father and a husband, but as a football player in the NFL. And I'm beyond grateful for our friendship. You know, obviously, you know, Coach Scalley's going to do a phenomenal job taking that over. And, you know, we keep everything in-house at Utah. That's one thing that's special about this program is all of our coaches have been there for 10-plus years. And, you know, that's a very unique situation, especially this day and age of college football, keeping the guys around and keeping this Utah family so tight. And that's just what it is. It's always the next man up mentality. And I know Coach Scalley's going to do a phenomenal job, but, you know, hats off to Coach Witt for everything he's done, has given his life to this team, and he has blessed so many people's lives. So it's a sad day and a good day at the same time.
You know, the consistent theme, Garrett, has been the effect that he has had on his players and young men like yourself. And, you know, Ewed called him a father figure. And your comments just now, all of us from the outside looking in simply know what he did for the program as a coach because you guys won at such a high level. And the program is now one of the preeminent college football programs in the Western United States. But as far as what allows him to have such an impact on all of you as a leader and a father figure, what's kind of his secret sauce? How has he been able to mentor so many young men the way he mentored you?
I mean, I think number one is just his faith and what he believes in and what he believes that all men should be. And, you know, his obviously Mama Whittingham, love her so much too, but his companion that rides and die with him every single day, that rides his Harley with him and all those things, like, those two people are so incredible. The whole Whittingham family is incredible, but specifically, you know, Kyle and what he does and what he stands for, his moral values, his family, his knowing what his why is, and sharing these stories. I mean, you know, Coach Whittingham was one of the big reasons why, you know, I committed to the University of Utah and continue to go there because of him being so consistent. And, you know, like what he told me, he's like, listen, we're recruiting you, but I want to know about your mom. I want to know about your wife. And he still texts my wife. He still talks to my mom. And, like, that's how it is. And that's one of the reasons why I went to University of Utah. I mean, obviously for, you know, Coach Harding as well, but, like, what he is as a person. I mean, he'll call me, text me, tell me he's watched my game, and asking me how I'm doing. He'll write me personal letters. Like, he's just so involved and wants to be involved. And, you know, obviously when I have my foundation events and things back during the summertime, like, he wants to be involved. He wants to be there, you know, him and his wife coming. So that just means the world to me. And, you know, obviously, you know, I play for my family and my faith, you know, being in the NFL, but I also play for the Utah football family too, because that's the type of man that I want to be. That's the type of person I want to be. He's just so involved in the youth and just wants to be involved in everything. I mean, obviously, you know, with Ty Jordan, Aaron Love, like, just the respect that he has for his people. Like, most coaches want to do what he does, especially for people that passed on or that, you know, that are there for a short period of time. Like, he knows everybody by name. He knows everybody's family by name. He's just an incredible person. And I'm just beyond grateful to be able to have a mentor like that and to be able to play under a football coach like that. And, just the GMs and the coaches in the NFL respect Coach Whittingham so much. I mean, my GM, Coach Payton, George Payton respects Coach Whittingham so much. Obviously he brings them out and lets them come to games and stuff, but just to be there and to see him and his success is just truly remarkable. And I'm grateful, man. I'm so grateful to be able to play for a man like that. And he's left this program. He should be proud of for what he's accomplished and where this team is going.
As far as his secret sauce as a coach, the one word that feels like it will be consistently echoed, because, of course, we're going to do our best next week to get as many guests on as we can to continue to reflect on his tenure. But the intensity that he seemed to bring day in and day out, practicing and then preparing you guys to play for the game on Saturday. So as far as, we've just talked about Coach Witt, the man, but Coach Witt, the coach, intensity, preparation, how would you articulate what has made him so effective in that lane?
He talks to us like men. I think that's first and foremost is he talked to us like we were his own kids, and he wouldn't want us to be able to do anything if he wasn't going to tell his own kids that. And, from the way that he prepped us, the way that we trained, the way that we ate, the way that we traveled, the way that we did, every little thing from A, B to C to be so successful. And there's a reason why we win 10 plus games a year, because he's going to practice. He's going to push us hard. He knows when to push us. He knows when to pull back. He knows when he needs to jump down our throat. He knows when to pull back. But when he yells, it's not like, "Hey man, get the heck out of the room." It's like, dude, what are you doing? It's so mental and it's so powerful on the way that he coaches, and you don't want to let him down. And there's a reason why there's so many dudes in the league that play for 5 to 10 years or beyond that, because of that mental toughness that he embraces, that he puts into us, and we have to embrace it. And it's the grind. And when you get to the NFL, there's coaches that are easier than others, but like Coach Payton, the pads and banging each other, I'm so used to that because that's what we did at Utah, and I think that's just what transitioned so well into the league. And there's a reason why Alex Smith was so successful and all these amazing people, because that's who Coach Whittingham is. And it's just that culture that he's built, the love factor, the respect factor. And when I say that we're truly a family, we are. There's guys that are in the league that I never played with, like a Caleb Lomer, the tight end, and he's a brother to me, because that's the relationship and the culture and the faith-based team that he built, is that everyone love everybody. And when you have that type of a culture and you don't want to let your brother down, that's when that team is powerful. And everyone's going to say, "Oh, we never won the big games," but we did win the big games because we put dudes in the league. Number one, we put dudes in the business field. Number two, and there are so many people that have played for this program that are so successful in life because of Coach Whittingham and what he does for all of us from Mondays to Saturdays.
I was asking Weddle this. He played in the league for 14 years. Is this your 8th year, Garrett? That's hard to believe. Have you been in 8 years now?
9 Checketts.
Holy
9.
smokes. Okay, 9 years in the league now. I wonder, because once upon a time when I was in school with your uncle and he and I were in school together back in the 90s, Utah football, maybe 1 or 2 players per year would either get drafted or get an invite. And there weren't a ton of youth players across the landscape in the NFL. There were some, but now it's very rare to watch any game where there aren't multiple Utah football players involved in, one team or the other, or the combination. What's the reputation in the NFL of Kyle Whittingham and Utah football?
Number one is that they don't have to worry about us, because we're going to be respectful. We're going to be reliable. We're going to show up every day to work. We love football, and we're good people in the communities, and we want to push each other in all aspects of life. We're good fathers, we're good husbands, we're just good men in general. And when I was getting drafted, I remember there's a lot of teams that came up to me and was like, "Hey, there's a reason why we brought you here for a 30-man visit or brought you in for a formal interview at the combine, because of your coach and your coaching staff." And I mean, look at our team, Checketts. Coach Whittingham coached there for so many years, but the staff, he kept this staff together for so many years. And one thing was you have to be consistent in football. Like, you have to have a consistent staff. You have to have the consistent people, and everyone's working for one goal, and that's obviously, winning big games, which we did win a lot of big games, and, there's a lot of dudes that went on to the league, but, like, his whole thing was he wanted to make, good men better, and that's truly what it was, and it was just that culture, man, and being in the NFL, like, they know when they draft a Utah guy, they know exactly what they're going to get. They're going to get a guy that doesn't complain, that works hard, that loves football, that just wants to be on the field and give it everything he has, because that's how we were trained at Utah. You know what I mean? Like, when it's October or November, there's other teams that aren't in pads. Oh, we're in pads and we're working. Like, there's no days off, and it's the off season and it's Red Zone Fridays. Like, it sucks, Checketts. It sucks what you do in the off season, but it pays the price forward. And what's so cool about being, a former Utah football player is, like, we pay that tribute forward for all the other kids that come through, all the young men that come through. Like, when you put that jersey on or you put that helmet on, like, it's tradition. And all the guys that played here went through the same thing, the same training, running the hills with Coach E on Saturdays by Highland High School. Like, it's all these same things because it's a family and we're all going to do this together. And obviously, like, it's not just guys that just play in the NFL. It's guys that are businessmen. Like, you're going to get a Utah football player that is just trustworthy, that wants to work hard, that are good people and loves football. And there's a reason why guys in the league play longer than the average year, which is 3.5 years. Like, guys are playing 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 years because of what Coach Whittingham has done for us, the way that he's taught us, the physicality that we bring, the mental game that we bring, also the spiritual game that we bring, because that's just the culture we have. And it's just a really cool thing, man. I mean, obviously I've talked to a lot of my old teammates and got to, I still talk to them. I still love them. I still have that connection because we embrace each other, and that's what he's created, and that's what the GMs and the coaches and the NFL level also see it, and they love that factor. There's a reason why Denver, ever since that I've been here since 2017, I have on average 3 to 5 guys on my team every year that I played in college because of that reason, and because they know what we're going to get out of each other, and they know exactly the type of person that they're going to get.
You referenced the spiritual side of the program, Garrett. I want to dig into this for a moment because it's kind of it's an interesting thing where even though, the University of Utah is in Salt Lake City and we're in the state of Utah where there are, depending on where you live, the majority of certain folks down south and up north, the majority LDS Church, Salt Lake, the number's a little bit different. But in the Utah football locker room, you have coaches of all different faiths and you have players of all different faiths. And it's not like BYU where most of them are LDS. It's a little bit different now. But what sort of leadership does Kyle provide in that space to encourage, everybody just to kind of find their own path and find their own way?
Yeah, number one, I think that what's so cool about University of Utah is that there's all different religions. You're right. There's Muslim, there's Muslim, there's Catholic, there's Christian, there's non-denominational people, there's people that just believe in God but don't go to church. But Pastor Davies comes in. He's a pastor in the Salt Lake City community that comes up and talks to us. And then we have another minister that comes in that they rotate. And so we also, we get the Christian world, we get the Mormon world, we get the Catholic world, and they rotate that. And it's so cool because after practice, we'll get together in a corner. I don't know what they do now. Obviously, they probably get into defense or offensive team room, but we used to just do it on the field. I think it was like every Wednesday or Thursday we would have a little session. And, first some weeks it would be 10 to 15 guys, and some guys it would be 50 to 60 guys. Like, it's just such a neat experience, and to have that spiritual side, because I truly believe like it's a balanced university, and especially a football team that it's all about faith, family, and football. I mean, that's really what it is, and when you have those three things that become your why and why you do what you do, obviously you build a culture that's just strong. And there's a reason why there's 2 football programs in the entire country that I think build their programs off of that, and it's Coach Whittingham at University of Utah, and then there's obviously the program at University of Iowa. And I think both of those head coaches, obviously he's still coaching at Iowa, but the one at Utah, like if you talk about who's the toughest, all the GMs are going to say, oh, Utah football players and Iowa football players, and that's just the truth. And I think it's because of that faith background and the love that we have each other. And they're very similar coaches in a lot of ways. Obviously, there's more Utes in the NFL than Iowa. I'll admit that, but we don't have to say that out too loud. But that's what it is, Checketts, and it's truly just a remarkable university. Like, I wish I was there longer than just one semester. Obviously, I did 2 years at Snow College, but I claim Utah through and through. I bleed red, and I love all those coaches so much, and especially Coach Whittingham and what he's given me to be able to spring me forward to the man I am today. And it's those little things that you miss. You know what I mean? When you get to the league, is you miss those moments of, there's a day where we can get together and we can talk about God, we can talk about faith, and we're all there together. And it doesn't matter, what race you are or what religion you are. We're all coming together because we all love God and we all love each other, and we want what's best for each other. And he's just always there to help every single person out. And there's always a different program. There's always something going on that each person, like, if you need a little bit of help with homework, or if it's religion, or if it's, my family's hurting, like, there's somebody to always talk to. And I think it's just who he is as a person to build that strong unity and that culture that we have there.
What about your specific positional group, Garrett? Because obviously Kyle is a believer that you got to win in the trenches, and that's what Utah football is known for. And Jim Harding, the offensive line coach, and, of course, you are a left tackle, one of the best. By the way, according to Pro Football Focus, are you aware that you're the best left tackle in the NFL? Did you even know that?
I mean, I knew a little bit of it, but obviously my team talks to me about it, but really, man, it's just one game at a time for me, to be honest with you.
Sure, but what's the secret sauce with Witt and Jim? Because I'm Spencer Fano is about to be a top 10 pick. The best left tackle in the country. So when it comes to the trenches, where Kyle really believes football games are won, why does Utah football develop such great offensive linemen?
Yeah, I think number one, shout out to all the old blocks if anyone's listening, but. Those are the two big reasons. There's three reasons why I came to Utah. Well, obviously, there's three coaches. You got Coach Whittingham, you got Coach Scally, which is recruiting me, and then Coach Harding, and they were just so consistent in all my recruiting. And, to be honest with you, I never really wanted to go to Utah. That was really the truth. I wanted to go out of the state. I wanted to go to Arkansas. I wanted to go somewhere big, and it was just like the Lord was like, nope, this is where you're going. And there's a reason why I went there, and it's the relationship factor that I have with Coach Harding, and just the small and things that he knows what he does. And, every single person, you got Caleb Alomu, you got Spencer Fano. They're obviously the two tackles that are going to get drafted in the top, 30 picks or 40 picks is what they're saying, which is remarkable. And I think there's a streak of Utah that every tackle that has played for Coach Whittingham, for Coach Harding has been drafted. I think I may be mistaken, but I believe that's still the ongoing trend. And it's just it's the culture that we build there. Number one, it's the offense that we play in. It's the mental toughness that they created us, and they just let us be ourselves. To be an offensive tackle, you sort of have to be a weirdo. You know what I mean? Like you have to be a little freaky, because there's so many good DNs in this league, and you have to want it. And obviously, Coach Harding is a phenomenal coach, and I talk to him on a regular basis. He means the world to me, and I can run anything by him on any little thing of what he saw in the game or what he sees that I can do better, and he still coaches me, and that's just the type of man he is. But it's definitely the family atmosphere. I think that's number one, what brings these guys in and brings it together. But he knows how to look at guys that are athletic and big and strong, and we may not be the biggest names, which is, the biggest names, or, the guys that go to Alabama and Auburn, whatever, they want to say the SEC has good linemen. But, quite frankly, we produce some of the best linemen in football over the last 10 years, or Jordan Gross and all these guys, Zane Beatles, all these guys that came in before us. There's a reason why there's been so many big-time offensive linemen and defensive linemen in the league, just because of that competitive nature. He knows how to recruit people. What's so unique about Coach Harding is he's a math teacher. I don't know if you knew that, Check. It's like he was a math teacher, and when you go to school, you're like, oh, I get a math teacher. Like, what the heck is this? You know what I mean? They just talk so calm and direct and patient and loving and just want what's best for you. And a teacher of the game. That's literally what Harding is. It's like he's the teacher of the game. And I'll admit it. Like when I was at coming out of the draft, a lot of teams didn't think I was the smartest and brightest, but what they didn't realize was I just learned differently because I have a learning disability. And there's day in and day out, I'd go to Coach Harding's office and I'd sit down with him, and he would teach me X's and O's, and he would walk through plays with me. He wanted what's best for me, and sometimes the guys just learn differently, but he can put the most talented guy out there and make him the smartest guy because of the teacher of the game. And obviously when you get in our weightlifting program and our, obviously our nutrition program, and then with Coach Harding's, freak of nature mindset of knowing how to attack people and knowing technique and knowing how to do these things from day in and day out to be a good offensive lineman. I mean, there's a reason why these guys are getting produced, and Spencer's going to have a phenomenal career. Caleb's going to have a phenomenal career. And it's just so much fun to watch these young guys just go and dominate. Crum in the middle. Jaron Crum had a phenomenal career. Obviously he battled through injuries and came up and stepped up big at center. And it's just so much fun to watch these young boys just dominate the line of scrimmage. And obviously we have the best O-line in college football, in my opinion. And it just speaks volume of the program that we have and the atmosphere that Coach Harding provides. Spencer
obviously is gone. Do you think Caleb is too? Do you think he's ready? Because we're really hoping that he comes back for at least one more year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure. Obviously, I spent a lot of time with him, and this whole agency thing. He signed with my agency, which I think I have the best agent in the NFL, and that's just the truth. And he'll be the first one to say every year when he's about to recruit kids of who he wants to recruit, the first team he goes to is the University of Utah because he knows the type of character that he's going to get. And Caleb's a phenomenal person. I mean, obviously Spencer's going to go have a phenomenal career in the NFL, and Caleb is, your prototypical left tackle. He's going to get the job done. He's smooth with it. He's strong. He's agile. He can bend. I mean, he protected, Dumper so well this year, and it was just so much fun to be able to connect with him and have that relationship with him. And we talk, and obviously I need to talk to him more. I've just been so busy, but it's always good to talk to him and catch up with him and be able to train with him in the summer times when I'm back at home, and hopefully we continue to do that throughout the years.
Before we get to a really cool honor for you, I did want to ask you a question about Morgan, who is now sliding over a seat and taking over as the head man. It feels like it's a consensus, Garrett, among the alum that this is the right move. Why? What gives you the most confidence that Morgan can keep this thing going?
It's because he's played in the system. He's been at Utah for, his whole career. He played here. He coached here. He knows what it takes. But he's so enthusiastic, you know what I mean? He's just so kind, but he's gonna run you. He's gonna push you. He's gonna push his limits. But this day and age, you need somebody to come in and have that culture and that mindset of taking young men and turning them into men. And these younger generation kids, they're a little bit different than when we went to school. You know what I mean? Checketts, they're a little bit just different with how many technology and things like that of that nature. And Coach Scally does a phenomenal job of knowing who to talk to and who to bring in. Obviously, he has one of the best defenses in college football and has been like that. And, obviously, I don't know what it is, but Utah football just loves defensive-minded coaches, from Urban Meyer to Coach Whittingham to, Ron McBride to Coach Meyer, right? Isn't that who took over after Ron, and then Coach Whittingham and now Scally? I mean, obviously, it's just defensive-minded people, and it's just that mental toughness that he has, that direct has, the relationship factor that he has, the loving atmosphere. It's like having Coach Whittingham all over again. It's just a 2.0 version of him, and more, yippee-yay, and that's really the difference. I mean, I don't think we'll see not even a slight drop-off. I think it's just going to continue to go forward, and it's a good move for our program. Obviously it's sad to let Whittingham go and him to go live his life, but he's been doing it for a long time, and I'm excited to see what Scally can do. Obviously, I have a great relationship with him with the whole Sigma Chi thing through my uncle, so that was pretty cool to be able to learn about that when I was up there. But I love him. I think the word of him comes from a great family, and I'm so excited to see what he can do for this program.
Your uncle's going to love that you dropped the Sigma Chi there, Garrett. Your uncle's going to love that. Hey, before I set you loose, not only are you elite what you do on the field, you're very elite on what you give back off the field, and you are the Broncos nominee for the Walter Payton Man of the Year. Number one, congrats, young man. Keep making us proud. Number two, how can our listeners help you?
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's a tremendous honor to be able to represent the Broncos organization to be, a participant in this Man of the Year. It's my second nominee. And, I built my foundation. I started in 2017, and I've started to grow. Obviously, it started in Utah, and now I'm starting to get over here in Denver. But I help underprivileged kids to be able to get back to to give them a life that, that I never lived when I was younger, and to be able to provide for them and to give them, if it's mentoring, if it's counseling, if it's, spiritual, physical, whatever it is, about helping them find their why in life and why we do what we do and why we want to wake up and why we want to go be successful. And obviously we're remodeling some pods right now at the Marvin Foote Center, which is the correctional facility right by my facility here in Dove Valley in Colorado. And basically remodeling all 6 pods with new paint, new carpet, new furniture, a sensory wall, some TVs, some more technology for them to connect with their mentors, so they're not just feeling like they're locked up and nobody cares about them. I mentor over there. I've mentored over 200 youth in that correctional facility also. So we're remodeling that area. And then also, my son was diagnosed with apraxia of speech. We launched the first ever, it's called B&B. So it's Bjorn and Bowles Training Center for kids with apraxia. We're going to train special speech teachers to be able to have them specialize in apraxia speech to be able to help kids that are in need. My son was diagnosed in 2021, Kingston. So the curriculum is going to be called I Am King, which is his name for short, and we'll be able to get back to the communities here. It's the first one ever in the entire world to be able to train these people with the most renowned speech therapist. Jenny Bjorn never knew that when I signed my second contract, when my son was diagnosed, that she was going to be 20 minutes away from my house. So God works in mysterious ways. But I knew this was something that I wanted to do. I wanted to open up a school and training center to be able to provide kids for the things that they need. There's so many amazing things that we have in store that we want to do and continue to make this as big. We have our first training coming up in this June. We just opened up in August, right before the season started. And we're just going through all the board members and being able to come up with the curriculum. And there's just a lot of work we're doing. So, number one, you can vote for me for Pro Bowl. You can also vote for me for Walter Man of the Year, because there's so many different, things that you guys can do for me. I'm also doing a 12-day giving on my Twitter, 12 days of giving for Christmas. So today I think we have a signed jersey by me, and then there's some other things throughout the week. So, but I appreciate all my fans and all the love that I have for Utah. It's an honor to be able to represent the state and to be able to come over here and represent in the NFL. So I'm grateful for all you guys and the love that I have for all you guys.
Well done, Garrett. Like I said, keep making us proud. I appreciate the time, and go Broncos, okay?
Yeah, much love, brother. Talk to you soon.
All right, Garrett Bowles, one of the best to ever do it at the University of Utah, first-round pick for the Denver Broncos back in 2017. And according to Pro Football Focus, we just had the best left tackle in the NFL on. Did you? No, I didn't think so. Great stuff from Garrett. He is the Broncos Man of the Year nominee as far as the Walter Payton Man of the Year. So go find him on social media. And then he's giving away an autographed jersey. I sent out the tweet on my Twitter page. He's got an Instagram post as well. So really appreciate Garrett stopping by today, and really appreciate the shout out to Sigma Chi that apparently my producer just wasn't really a fan of.
No, you guys do your thing.
Well, I'm just saying, when are you going to accept that we run the city?
Yeah, I guess you do, kind of.
Well, shout out Morgan.
Garrett, definitely more now.
Garrett's uncle, McKinley, who helped us get him on the show today, a proud, I believe he was the pro-con.
Okay.
Which is vice president.
Oh.
When I was a pledge.
So you guys were there together.
Yeah. We were there. And Morgan was there a few years after us.
It's a big house.
How about Garrett Bowles, the best left tackle in the NFL?
Dude.
That's something else.
He has been, and listen, he showed flashes of what he could be at the University of Utah. He had some of those plays where it looked like the blind side, right? Where he was just blowing over other players and manhandling guys at the Division I level. You could see, there's some potential here, but Garrett was not like ready to play the position at a pro level. The growth that he's made since he stepped foot on campus, that potential coming to fruition. Shout out Jim Harding and the co there, and then to get to Denver and just keep getting better and better and better it says a lot about his work ethic. Phenomenal football player.
And what a sweet kid. I mean, if you're not familiar, with his story, I would encourage you to look into it. Has overcome a ton to literally be a master at his craft. Okay, well, I guess if it's not busy enough on a Friday, breaking news from Ross Dellinger, the Big 12 is nearing a deal with Redbird and Weatherford Capital for a cash infusion as much as $500 million to schools, as well as striking a strategic investment partnership with the firms at the league officials. Redbird was the former private equity firm that the Otro guys left to start their firm. So as if we weren't busy enough, there's more breaking news on a Friday. Before we catch a break, our friends at Outlaw Distillery have got great honey bourbon, new barrel-proof bourbon, vodka, spice rum, and coffee rum. You can try some of their spirits either at our VIP tailgate next season. Go check out every one of their offerings at Big Willie Sports Bar, another fantastic partner of ESPN 700. Outlaw is truly a grain-to-glass product. Check out our friends at Outlaw Distillery. Found at all your state liquor stores. Stop by 552 West, 8360 South in Sandy for a tour and tasting today. 3 hours down, 1 hour to go. 5 o'clock hour of the program on a Friday starts right now on ESPN 700. Well, hello. How are you? Happy Friday. 9 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. Your commute home on a Friday afternoon starts right now. It's been another, well, it depends on how you look at it, beautiful, warm day. I know folks are waiting for snow, but another about 55-degree day today and sunny here in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah, as we're preparing for a very mild weekend as well with some sunshine. Over the weekend. It looks like some warm weather next week as well. But happy Friday to you. If you're one that wants the snow, you're probably grumpy, but it is on its way. It has been a very unexpectedly busy, well, quite frankly, week, let alone Friday afternoon. So to give you a little bit of a timeline here, this radio program begins at 2 o'clock, as you know if you listen, and thank you if you do. I did a little crosstalk with Scott Mitchell today. And as I was setting up to do the show, Porter plays the intro. And as the intro was going, I get an alert in my email from Keeler McJunkin, the assistant AD for strategic communications at the University of Utah, that an email had spilled in announcing that Kyle Whittingham is set to step down as Utah's head coach. All-time winningest head coach in Utah football history. He will coach his last game for the Utes in the Las Vegas Bowl on December the 31st. Here's what Coach Whitt had to say via the email release. Quote, "The time is right to step down from my position as the head football coach at the University of Utah. It's been an honor and a privilege to lead the program for the past 21 years, and I'm very grateful for the relationships forged with all the players and assistant coaches that have worked so hard to have proudly worn the drum and feather during our time here. The opportunity to guide so many talented young men as they pursued their goals both on and off the field has truly been a blessing. Thank you to the university, the Salt Lake community, all of Ute Nation, and most of all, my wife and family for your unwavering support that has helped make Utah football what it is today." So a massive news day, regardless of the attendant two stories that have since come out, namely Stuart Mandel, who, as we were interviewing Eric Weddle, reported that he has been told that Kyle Whittingham still has interest in coaching football. This is not a retirement. This is Kyle stepping down. So, of course, you're trying to draw, a lot of lines here and connect the dots as far as what could be next. And then our guy Jason Batakia from the Salt Lake Tribune about 45 minutes ago is reporting that Utah's head coach could seek other opportunities moving forward. So, as Jason points out for his piece for the Trib, one word missing from Kyle Whittingham's goodbye announcement was retirement. So he caught up with Alex Whittingham, Jason did. Here's what Alex Whittingham told the Salt Lake Tribune about 45 minutes ago. Quote, "He still has that fire and that desire to do something in some capacity to help some team win." Again, Stuart Mandel reporting that Whitt is not retiring. He is stepping down and may pursue other opportunities. More from Alex Whittingham via the Trib. Quote, "I talked to him this morning before I went out to practice, and he told me that he had made the decision to step down. I'm still kind of processing it. He's been coaching there since I was 2 years old, and it's all I've ever known." And then an interesting tidbit from the Salt Lake Tribune sounds like this. A year ago, Coach Whitt signed an amendment to his contract. Before that, the contract outlined a 5-year role as a special assistant to the university's athletic director. The position would pay the longtime coach $995,000 per year, or as we call it around here, sports talk producer money, as Porter can back that up. Is that about right, $995K?
Did you say $995?
No, like $995,000 per.
Yeah, something like that.
That's why you get into producing sports talk radio. But anyway, 5-year role, special assistant to the AD, prior to the amendment that he signed a year ago. And here's the amendment. Under the new deal, Whitt would be paid $3.45 million annually for a 2-year term as a special assistant. So, Porter, is it completely irresponsible to believe that Whitt will stick around for 2 years, pocket $3.45 per for 2, and then maybe decide to go do something based off of the reporting from the Salt Lake Tribune?
I have no real clue. I think that Kyle's going to play out that contract. I think he's going to be with the University of Utah in some form or fashion through that 2027 contract. And if by then, Spence, he decides to hang it up, I would not hang it up. I would not be surprised at all. But I also see this as a guy who is going to be involved in football in some way, shape, or form for pretty much ever. I don't know that necessarily means he takes like a coaching job elsewhere, but you mentioned like Andy Reid. Could I see him just being a special advisor with the Chiefs in 8 years? Possibly. I could see Kyle doing that. I could see him being open to those possibilities. But I think the 2027 under contract with Utah, he seems like a guy who just on that alone would honor that. I think that's the most likely scenario.
More from Alex Whittingham via the Salt Lake Tribune. Quote, I'm not sure exactly what his next immediate step will be. When I conversed with him, he basically said this is not going to be a full-on retirement. I think he still has that competitive fire. I still think he wants to continue in some capacity. I don't know where, how, or when. So we've discussed this throughout the course of the show today. I mean, the majority of the show has been trying to get as many people on the program as possible to just talk about what Whit should mean to everybody who cares about Utah football, whether you're an alum who played there, a student who went there and had an opportunity to, join the musts and have football kind of be intertwined in the tapestry of your experience at the University of Utah. Media members, Kyle's been a great, great coach to cover for all of us. I mean, at times there's been some, maybe some icy interactions. At times there's been some misdirections, right? And that's just part of the game. But he's always been very kind and respectful to me. He's always been willing to come on the show and answer any questions that I ask him. And then when I see him off air, he could not be better. This is not just a great football coach. This is a great person. He's a great man who certainly has left Utah football better than where he found it, and a legacy that includes the all-time winningest head coach in Utah football history, a legacy that includes an undefeated season and a Sugar Bowl victory over Alabama back in 2008. 2 Rose Bowls, 3 conference championships, and ultimately he's been a part of Utah football for 32 years. So he's coached in 391 games and contributed to a program record 262 wins. His head coaching record is 177 wins, 88 losses. That's nearly 67% winning percentage, which is just wild. Of course, surpassing Ike Armstrong back in the day, 144 wins, 55 losses, 15 ties back in the day. The second longest tenured head coach in FBS, 3 National Coach of the Year awards, including the AFCA and Bear Bryant Awards in 2008 and the Dodd Trophy in 2019. Here's what Mark Harlan had to say via the release. Quote, the legacy that Kyle Whittingham leaves distinguishes him as one of the most impactful figures in the history of Utah athletics. As the head or the assistant coach, Coach Whitt played a pivotal role in the most historic and successful season in program history and established championship expectations. Perhaps more importantly, he established a legacy of tremendous character, integrity, and class. Kyle Whittingham will forever be appreciated and cherished for his leadership and achievement with Utah football. Now, concerning the Stuart Mandel report, as it pertains to what The Athletic is reporting, that Coach Whitt is not retiring. He is just stepping down. My understanding, and Stuart, he's come on the show before. I've interviewed him a bunch of times. The majority of his sourcing seems to come from agents, from somebody who works directly with him. And so this could very well be Coach Whitt's agent just getting the information out there like, hey, my guy's available. And you could do a lot worse than Kyle Whittingham, who at the age of 66, I mean, Saban was 72 when he retired? A lot of coaches coach into their 70s, and some, I think Joe Paterno probably stuck around too long, but into their 80s. Like, Whitt has years left to coach if that's what he wants to do. There is a current vacancy in Ann Arbor. Michigan certainly is in need of somebody that is a safe hire as a result of the chaos that program finds themselves in and has found themselves in for a number of different years. I mean, Jim Harbaugh is a hell of a football coach, but he obviously didn't care about rules and regulations while he was there. And their last head football coach is, in jail right now facing 3 charges. They've got a great freshman quarterback in Bryce Underwood. They've got a recruiting class that needs some sort of stability. I think that's the word I would use when it comes to what Michigan would certainly want and need. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. I have no idea. I mean, we quoted Alex Whittingham from the Tribune. We've talked about the reports that are out there that this is not a retirement. It is simply him stepping down. A lot of people are surmising behind the scenes that Morgan may be a little bit antsy to have his opportunity, which, by the way, do you blame him? I mean, how long can you be the coach in waiting when you feel like you've earned your time? recruiting class dialed in, signing day last week. Transfer portal is January 2nd, okay? So whatever the direction was going to be, it had to be solidified, and it is solidified today. Bert Ficklin officially signed his one-year contract. He'll be back next year as Utah's, well, we'll see, one of the two Utah quarterbacks. We'll see what the other news kind of brings us once the transfer portal becomes official. But make no mistake, whatever comes next, there's nothing that can diminish the legacy of this coach and this man who we all owe a lot of thanks to. And I'll say it just personally, Coach, if you're listening, and we know that you are because you listen to this program every day, very heartfelt thank you for turning a school that I went to in the 90s that was a basketball school into one of the preeminent college football programs in the Western United States. College football playoff awards are tonight. Spencer Fano could be featured. I would imagine he will be. And oh, by the way, as if this week wasn't chaotic enough, Ross Dellinger is reporting that the Big 12 is nearing an agreement with Redbird and Weatherford Capital for a cash infusion of millions. So Redbird Capital was the private equity firm that was the home of Alex Shiner for a number of different years before Alex left Redbird to start Oaktro, which is now Utah's private equity partner. So is this more money for Utah? Is this a reactionary move as a result of Utah's deal? Did Brett Yormark get a bunch of phone calls from member institutions in the Big 12 saying, well, wait a second, if Utah's going to do this, we need to keep up with the Joneses? They're actually, you know what? Spencer Fano, breaking news, just won the Outland Trophy Award. Holy smokes. That is awesome. Well-deserved. Shout out to Spencer Fano. College football awards are tonight. The first award of the night goes to Spencer Fano for winning the Outland Trophy. First Ute, Porter tells me, in the history of the Outland Trophy Award. And we just had Garrett Bowles on, who, by the way, is the best left tackle in the NFL. So a very interesting night of news for the University of Utah's football program. Culminates with an Outland Trophy Award winner, and that is Spencer Fano, the first in the history of this program. They're showing a really cool video of Logan actually announcing that it happened. That's on ESPN right now. We'll catch a break. More on the breaking news. Coach Witt stepping down as the head coach of Utah football. Keep it right here on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700. Well, my goodness, nothing is breaking as we speak, but what a week of news, what a day of news. 2 minutes before we started the show, we get the email from Utah Athletics that Witt is stepping down. 30 minutes into the show, we get the Stuart Mandel report that he's not retiring and is interested in coaching. About an hour and a half ago, we get the Tribune piece quoting Alex Whittingham that he still very much wants to coach somewhere. Spencer Fano has won the Outland Trophy Award, and that's the first offensive lineman in Utah history to win that award. And then, Ross Dellinger is reporting the Big 12 is in conversations with Redbird and Weatherford Capital for a cash infusion of millions. Interesting, as I read through the news during a break, this is not an equity deal. This these private equity firms will not receive any equity in the Big 12. According to Brett Yormark, it's more to create a multifaceted strategic business partnership focused on growing commercial operations of the league, while also providing an opt-in capital solution for our member institutions to take advantage of up to $500 million in capital. So look, I don't know, man. I just need to go to sleep for a minute and just kind of digest everything that's happened. I'll dig into this over the weekend, and of course, we will bring any information that comes our way to you about this new capital deal in the Big 12. Sharon Moore was in court today, kind of via Zoom. He's still in jail. He's charged with 3 crimes, criminal charges, felony third-degree home invasion, 2 misdemeanors, stalking in a domestic relationship and breaking and entering. He was released, actually, and he met the $25,000 bond. My guess is he went home to a wife that wanted to talk to him about a couple of different things. The Jazz are playing. They're going to play Memphis tonight. I almost said Grizzlies. The Utah Mammoth are playing. They're going to play the Seattle Kraken. Neither the Jazz or the Mammoth are very good right now. We've got Utah basketball against Mississippi State tomorrow night, BYU hoops, and then, an NFL weekend that we didn't even really talk about. There was Thursday Night Football last night. A bunch of great matchups coming up over the weekend as we're high speed ahead to the postseason. Am I missing anything? I feel like I've been very thorough. Is there anything I'm missing?
When you say the phrase "drinking through a fire hose," that's usually kind of a figure of speech. Today it was, pretty accurate.
Yeah.
But I think you covered most of it there.
There you go. And to the people that were mad that we had Howard Beck on the show, we just did 4 hours of radio, and 3 hours and 48 minutes were about Utah football and Coach Witt. So just find something else to do with your time. Like, we booked Howard Beck. He's one of the best writers in the country.
It's frankly a weekly guest that we haven't had to have on or been able to have on. And just to be clear, for those who are upset and don't know the behind the scenes here, we did actually allow for that spot to be taken by Utes people who were not available. So we just went with Howard, who was already scheduled.
It's so exhausting, these people that think they know how to do this job. 3 hours and 48 minutes of a 4-hour radio show were about the news. We talked to Howard Beck for 12 minutes. Shout out to Spencer Fano. Really cool thing for Spencer. Outland Trophy Award winner, first time in program history. Very well deserved. It's interesting when we were talking to Garrett Bowles, and he told us that, first of all, what a great interview. That kid has evolved as a guest. McKinley, his uncle, was telling us that he now does a weekly hit with the Denver radio station, and he gave us 25 awesome minutes. But Garrett was telling us a story about how Caleb Lomu, has now signed with Garrett's agent's agency. And so I was trying to kick the tires, like, hey, is he going to leave? Is he going to come back? Because Spencer's gone, and he should be. He might be top 10. But it would be nice to have Caleb Lomu anchoring the left side of Utah's offensive line next year.
And, hey, maybe you come back and have the kind of year that your comrade Spencer Fano just had, and you can have yourself a top 10 type pick if NFL draft scouts are already looking at you. And, hey, there's a new cash infusement where you can stay here and make money. You don't have to take your talents to the professional level. So 5 years ago, I would have said, Caleb Lomu's gone. He's a second, third round pick, projected maybe mid rounds. But now you have an opportunity to keep those kind of guys in-house.
Yes, it would be nice. I mean, we've got a great young man who was signed by Utah as the highest ranked recruit ever, the Kelvin Obot kid, who's an offensive lineman. But certainly having Caleb Lomu back would be great. All right, I'll be on TV. I'm going to do that now. I just found out. We will do a little Coach Witt tonight on KMYU Talking Sports. You can see that at 10:35. Me and my guy Adam Mikulich will be talking about the legacy of Coach Witt, and then we will be back with a Monday edition of the show. Oh, I want to give a quick shout out real quick. My Aunt Judy passed away this week, my father's older sister, and she loved listening to the show because she was the sweetest lady. And she was always so nice to tell me how proud of her she was. And I know her daughters, Jenny and Jill, and her sons, Jared and Jason, are big-time local sports fans. So my Aunt Judy passed. We're going to go celebrate her life coming up tomorrow, and then we'll be back on a Monday show. So I wanted to give a shout-out to her and my father and everybody kind of mourning that loss. Have a great weekend. Porter, what comes our way, hopefully, on a more docile, normal Monday edition of the show?
Well, first off, a shout-out to Aunt Judy,
indeed,
and the folks.
Yes, ma'am.
That's not a fun one ever. All too familiar with it. So thoughts with the family there. Also,
thank you, sir.
Shout out to one Kyle Whittingham. I do want to, we cover this, we observe it, we try to give you objective feelings on what's happening, but at the same time, that's a guy who has been really good to me. He's a guy who has taught me more football probably than anyone. And, my entire coverage of Utah football, of course, has existed around one Kyle Whittingham. It's funny. He took that job either 2 weeks before or 2 weeks after I was born, Spence. It was right around in 1994. I was born in October. I think he took the job a few weeks or months before I was born. So it's pretty crazy come full circle. And, I'm now 30 plus years old, and the guy is just today calling it quits on the Hill, and a big shout out to him.
That is wild perspective. No, you're right. This is not just, I think, what will go unknown for most because they're not as lucky as we are to have this peek behind the curtains. This is not just a great football coach. This is a great man. Yep. This is a good man. Who deserves, whatever else comes his way, whether it's retirement or if he takes another opportunity. He will certainly have support on this station, there's no doubt. All right, Monday show, what's that going to sound like?
Scott Mitchell, Stevenson Sylvester. We'll have Bill Riley on the program, and we'll go from there. A bunch of Ute stuff. We'll probably load it up most of the week, and definitely majority of Monday with former players and folks who have played with or for one Kyle Whittingham.
There you go. So that'll be a great Monday show, and I would imagine that will be the bulk of our coverage next week. We'll say goodnight and a very special thank you to Eric Weddle, Howard Beck. Yes, thank you, Howard Beck, as well as Sean O'Connell, Dave Bartu, and the great Garrett Bowles. If you miss any of the sound from the show today, the website is there for your disposal. It's ESPN700sports.com. Make sure to download our mobile app and take us on the go. That ESPN 700 app is available in the App Store and the Google Play Store. Then finally, for what we do in our space every afternoon, if you missed any of it, including Howard Beck, go to our podcast page. It's called The Drive with Spence Checketts. That's available wherever you get your shows. Subscribe, rate, review, say nice things in comments. Give us all the stars. It helps. He's Porter. I'm Spence saying good night. Have a great weekend, guys. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. We'll talk to you on a Monday edition of The Drive. And as always, you can catch that right here on your home of the Utes. Shout out to Coach Witt, ESPN 700.